When Evelyn Carter handed her platinum credit card to a homeless-looking stranger at Boston's most exclusive charity gala, she thought she was making a joke. 24 hours to spend like the rich. What could possibly go wrong? But as notifications lit up her phone showing thousands vanishing from her account, the laughter died. Hospital bills, overdue rent, children's medicine. This wasn't the reckless shopping spree she'd expected. And when she finally tracked down Marcus Hale in a crumbling apartment where his 8-year-old daughter fought for every breath, Evelyn realized her cruel game had exposed the one thing money couldn't buy: dignity. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if this one touches your heart, hit that like button and stick around until the end. Because what Marcus does next will change everything you think you know about wealth. The chandeliers in this Copley Plaza ballroom cast everything in golden light, making diamonds sparkle and champagne glasses gleam like liquid sunshine. Evelyn Carter stood near the bar, her emerald gown worth more than most people's cars, watching Boston's elite pretend to care about childhood hunger while spending $50,000 on auction items they didn't need. She was 28 and bored out of her mind. Another cosmopolitan, Miss Carter? The bartender knew her by name, knew her drink, knew exactly how much vodka to pour to keep her pleasantly numb through these endless galas. Why not? Evelyn smiled without warmth. It's for charity, after all. Laughter bubbled from the cluster of women to her left, her friends, though that word felt increasingly hollow. Madison Pierce, oil money and attitude. Charlotte Webb, tech dynasty princess. Vanessa Cross, whose family owned half the luxury hotels in New England. They orbited each other out of habit and proximity, bound by trust funds and the peculiar loneliness of inherited wealth. Did you see Patricia's face when the Monet went for underestimate? Madison's voice carried that particular pitch of delighted cruelty. She bid against herself twice. Old money, no brain cells, Charlotte added, scrolling through her phone. Speaking of entertainment, this party is dead. We should have gone to the Vineyard opening in Napa. Evelyn sipped her cosmopolitan and said nothing. She'd been to the Vineyard, she'd been everywhere, done everything, bought anything that caught her momentary interest. At some point, probably around her 25th birthday, she'd realized that unlimited resources meant unlimited emptiness. Every experience felt the same. Every triumph felt hollow. She was contemplating leaving early when the commotion started near the entrance. "Sir, I'm sorry, but this is a private event." The security guard's voice held that special blend of politeness and firmness reserved for removing undesirables from expensive venues. "I understand." The man's voice was quiet, tired. "I just thought... I saw the banner outside. Childhood Hunger Initiative. I wanted to help." "The minimum donation for entry is $500. Silence. The kind that spreads through a crowd like ripples in still water. Evelyn turned with the others, curious despite herself. Through the gap in the well-dressed bodies, she could see him, tall, probably early 30s, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt that had seen better days. Dark hair slightly too long, shoulders that looked like they carried more than just physical weight. His hands, she noticed, were calloused. Working hands. "I don't have $500. He said it simply, without shame or apology. "But I have this." He held out a $20 bill, crumpled, worn soft from passing through too many hands. The security guard's expression didn't change. "I appreciate the gesture, sir, but what?" The man, she'd later learn his name was Marcus Hale, looked around the ballroom with those exhausted eyes. "I thought this was about helping kids who don't have enough to eat. My daughter knows what that feels like. I thought that $20 mattered." Someone near Evelyn giggled. The sound cut through the awkward silence like breaking glass. "Oh my God," Madison whispered, loud enough to carry. "Is he serious?" More laughter, spreading like a contagion. These people donated thousands without blinking, bought tables at galas for the Instagram photos, wrote checks that could change lives and forgot about them before the ink dried. The idea that someone would show up with $20, actual crumpled cash, was absurd. Hilarious. Marcus's jaw tightened. For a moment, Evelyn thought he might say something more, might defend himself or explain. Instead, he carefully folded the $20 bill and slid it back into his pocket. "My mistake," he said quietly. "I'm sorry for the interruption." He turned to leave. And that's when Evelyn did it. She didn't think. Thinking would have stopped her. Instead, she moved on pure impulse, crossing the marble floor in her $1,000 heels, the Cosmopolitan making everything feel distant and consequence-free. "Wait." Marcus turned. Up close, she could see the exhaustion etched into his face, not just from tonight, but from years of fighting battles he couldn't win. There were shadows under his eyes, fine lines of worry around his mouth. He was younger than she'd first thought, but life had aged him. Evelyn reached into her Chanel clutch and pulled out her platinum credit card. American Express Centurion. The card with no spending limit, the one she used without thinking, the one that represented everything excessive and meaningless about her life. "Here." She held it out. Marcus stared at the card like it might bite him. "I don't understand." 24 hours. Evelyn heard her own voice as if from a distance, heard the alcohol-smooth confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences. "You said you wanted to help? You said that money matters? Prove it. Spend like the rich for one day." Behind her, Madison gasped. "Evelyn, are you insane?" "Probably." Evelyn kept her eyes on Marcus, on the confusion and suspicion warring across his face. "What do you say? Consider it a social experiment. See how the other half lives." "This is a joke." Marcus didn't reach for the card. "No joke. 24 hours. Spend whatever you want." The cruelty of it thrilled through her, the delicious transgression of giving ultimate power to someone who clearly had none. "Unless you're scared." That did it. Pride, the kind that sustains people who have nothing else, flickered in his eyes. "And after 24 hours, he asked carefully, "bring it back, or don't. I'll cancel it eventually either way." Evelyn shrugged with practiced indifference. "What's the worst that could happen? You buy yourself something nice? Run up a ridiculous tab? At least it'll be interesting." The ballroom had gone silent, all these wealthy, powerful people watching a scene they'd replay at dinner parties for weeks. The heiress and the beggar. High entertainment. Marcus looked at the card for a long moment. Evelyn could see the wheels turning, calculation, suspicion, desperate hope. Finally, his hand moved, and he took the platinum rectangle from her fingers. 24 hours, he repeated. Starting now. Evelyn smiled, the same empty smile she'd perfected over years of meaningless social interactions. "Don't disappoint me." Marcus said nothing. He looked at her one more time. A look she couldn't quite read, something that might have been pity or might have been contempt. And then he turned and walked out of the ballroom. The moment he disappeared, the laughter exploded. "Oh my God, Evelyn!" Charlotte grabbed her arm, eyes bright with delighted shock. "Did you actually just—" "That was incredible," Madison interrupted, already pulling out her phone. "We have to track this. How much is he going to spend?" "Everything," Vanessa predicted, champagne sloshing as she gestured wildly. "Strip clubs, casinos, designer stores. The account notifications come to my phone like—" Evelyn ordered another Cosmopolitan, feeling the familiar numbness settle back over her. "We'll know everything he buys." And there it was, the entertainment she'd been craving. A real-life drama, consequences-free. She'd given a desperate stranger unlimited money just to see what he'd do with it. It was cruel, it was reckless, it was the most interesting thing to happen at one of these galas in years. "You're terrible," Charlotte laughed, but her eyes said, "I wish I'd thought of it first." "I'm bored," Evelyn corrected. "There's a difference." They moved to a private table, drinks flowing, phones out, and waiting. The gala continued around them, speeches about hungry children delivered by people who'd never missed a meal, auctions for obscene luxuries disguised as generosity. Evelyn barely heard any of it. She kept checking her phone, waiting for the first notification. It came at 10:47 p.m. Transaction, $847.32. Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. Approved. "Here we go." Madison leaned over Evelyn's shoulder to read. "Medical center? Maybe he's getting cosmetic work done." "Or drugs," Vanessa suggested. "Prescription fraud is a thing." Another notification. Transaction, $1,240. CVS Pharmacy. Approved. Definitely drugs. Charlotte scrolled through her own phone, probably looking up what you could buy for $1,200 at a pharmacy. Evelyn said nothing. Something about the amounts felt wrong. Too specific, too practical. Not the reckless splurge she'd expected. Transaction, $3,200. Landlord direct payment, approved. Rent? Madison frowned. He's paying rent. That's so boring. Transaction, $680. Town. National Grid Utilities, approved. Transaction, $340. Municipal Water Department, approved. Transaction, $520. Boston School District, lunch program, approved. The notifications kept coming, each one more mundane than the last. No designer stores, no luxury cars, no jewelry or electronics or any of the things Evelyn's friends had predicted. "This is disappointing," Vanessa announced after the 10th alert. "He's just paying bills. Where's the fun in that?" "Maybe he's getting the boring stuff out of the way first," Charlotte offered, "saving the real shopping for tomorrow." But Evelyn kept staring at her phone, at the growing list of payments that painted a picture she hadn't expected. Rent 3 months overdue. Utilities about to be shut off. A child's school lunch account depleted. Medical bills that made her own annual health insurance premiums look like pocket change. Transaction, $2,100. Children's Hospital. Boston. Patient account number 4782. Approved. Children's Hospital, Madison read over her shoulder. "See? I told you, he's probably selling the card number to other people. They're all scamming you." Evelyn didn't answer. She was doing the math in her head. $8,000 spent in the first 2 hours. None of it frivolous. All of it screaming of desperation dressed up as opportunity. "I need air." She stood abruptly, ignoring Charlotte's protests. Outside the ballroom, the hotel corridor felt too bright, too clean. Evelyn leaned against the wall, her phone still vibrating with notifications. Transaction, $1,500. Pediatric Cardiology Associates, approved. Transaction, $890. Children's Hospital. Boston, Pharmacy, approved. Cardiology. Children. The words connected in her mind, forming a picture she didn't want to see. A sick child, a desperate father, a crumpled $20 bill that represented everything he had. Her joke suddenly felt less funny. "Miss Carter?" One of the event coordinators approached with a clipboard and a concerned expression. "Is everything all right?" "Fine." Evelyn pushed off the wall, forcing a smile. "Just needed a moment." "Of course. Oh, and I wanted to thank you again for your generosity earlier. That man you helped—" "I didn't help him." The words came out sharper than intended. "I gave him a credit card for 24 hours. That's not helping." The coordinator blinked, uncertain how to respond to that honesty. "Well, it was very kind regardless." Kind. The word sat wrong in Evelyn's mouth. What she'd done wasn't kind. It was cruel theater, a game played with real stakes she'd never bothered to consider. Back in the ballroom, her friends had moved on to other entertainment. Madison was flirting with a venture capitalist. Charlotte was bidding on a weekend in the Hamptons. Vanessa was 3 champagnes past, caring about anything. The gala would end soon. They'd all go home to their penthouse apartments in Brownstone Estates, and tomorrow they'd wake up to the same unlimited possibilities they'd always had. Evelyn wondered where Marcus Hale would wake up. Her phone buzzed again. Transaction, $650. Grocery delivery. Star Market. Approved groceries. Not caviar or champagne or any of the expensive, wasteful things she bought without thinking. Just groceries. Having second thoughts? A voice beside her. Thomas Morrison, old money personified, the kind of man her father wanted her to marry. Investment banker, Harvard legacy, probably owned property in 3 countries. About what? Evelyn didn't look at him. Your little charity case. Thomas gestured with his Scotch glass. Word's already spreading. People are taking bets on how much he'll spend. How much are you betting? 50,000 by midnight. Thomas smiled like he'd said something clever. These people always take more than you think. It's in their nature. Their nature? Evelyn finally looked at him. You mean poor people? I mean people who haven't learned to manage money properly. Give them unlimited access and they'll drown in their own excess. He moved closer, dropping his voice to something he probably thought was intimate. But it's a fascinating experiment. Very bold of you. Bold, kind, generous. Everyone kept using these words that didn't fit what she'd actually done. Excuse me. Evelyn moved away, suddenly desperate to be anywhere else. The ballroom felt suffocating. All these people in their expensive clothes playing at charity, while actual need walked among them invisible. She found herself in the hotel lobby, sinking into a leather chair near the windows. Outside, Boston sparkled with money and possibility. Inside, her phone kept buzzing. Transaction. $2,400 in guineas. Children's Hospital. Boston, patient account 4782. Approved. That account number again. Patient 4782. A child she'd never meet, whose medical crisis she'd turned into entertainment. Evelyn closed her eyes and tried to remember what she'd been thinking when she handed over that card. Boredom. Impulse. The desire to feel something other than the crushing emptiness of her own privilege. She'd wanted a story, a moment of unexpected drama in her carefully curated life. She'd gotten it, just not the way she expected. By midnight, the total had reached $37,000. Not a single frivolous purchase. No restaurants, no bars, no entertainment of any kind. Just the relentless march of necessity, medical, shelter, food, utilities. The infrastructure of survival that people like Evelyn never thought about because it simply existed, paid automatically, background noise in lives of abundance. The gala ended. Her friends went home. Evelyn stayed in the lobby chair watching transactions paint a portrait of a life she couldn't imagine. Transaction. $890. Boston Medical Center. Prescription fulfillment. Approved. Transaction. $1,200. Pediatric home care services. Approved transaction. $450. Medical equipment. Rental. Approved. At 2 a.m., her father called. Evelyn. Richard Carter's voice carried that specific tone of disappointed authority he'd perfected over the years. I just got a fraud alert from American Express. $43,000 in medical and household expenses in 6 hours. What's going on? It's not fraud. Evelyn watched a taxi pull up to the hotel, disgorging more wealthy patrons. I authorized it. You authorized... He paused, and she could hear him processing this, trying to find the angle that made sense. Is this some kind of donation? There are better ways to handle charitable giving, you know. Tax implications. It's not a donation. Though, what else could she call it? It's complicated. Evelyn. Her father sighed. You can't just throw money at random people. There are processes, organizations, proper channels. I know. And she did know. She'd sat on the boards of a dozen charities, signed checks for causes she barely understood, attended benefits like tonight where everyone felt good about their generosity without actually encountering the people they claimed to help. Then what is this? I don't know yet. Evelyn ended the call before he could lecture her further. The sun rose over Boston and the notifications kept coming. By 8 a.m., Marcus Hale had spent $62,000. Every cent documented, every purchase a window into a life where money meant survival, not luxury. Evelyn finally went home around 9. Her penthouse apartment overlooked the harbor, all glass and minimalist furniture and empty space. She stood at the window with coffee she didn't want, watching boats drift past, her phone silent for the first time in hours. Then, at 10:15 a.m., transaction, $5,800. Children's Hospital. Boston. Surgical consultation. Approved surgical consultation. The words hit different than all the others. This wasn't just medicine. This was life and death, measured in dollars that Marcus Hale clearly didn't have. Evelyn made a decision she'd regret and couldn't avoid. She called her driver. "Miss Carter?" James answered on the first ring, ever professional. "Do you need the car?" "I need you to find someone." Evelyn pulled up the American Express app, found the address associated with the utility payment. Marcus Hale. Last known address is 247 Meridian Street, East Boston. "Is this for security purposes? Should I call?" "No." Evelyn grabbed her coat. "Just find him. I'm coming down." 20 minutes later, she was in the back of the Mercedes, watching Boston's landscape change from gleaming downtown to struggling neighborhoods. The buildings got older, more worn. The people on the streets looked tired in a way her friends never did. 247 Meridian Street was a 3-story apartment building that had probably been nice 50 years ago. Now it leaned slightly, paint peeling, windows covered in decades of grime. The kind of place Evelyn had never had reason to visit. "Should I wait here, Miss Carter?" James asked, uncertainty clear in his voice. "Yes." Evelyn stepped out of the car, immediately aware of how out of place she looked. Her coat cost 3 months' rent in a building like this. Her shoes probably equaled a month of groceries. Inside, the lobby smelled of mildew and old cooking. A handwritten directory listed residents, half the names faded or crossed out. She found it. M. Hale, 3B. The stairs creaked under her weight. On the second-floor landing, a child's bicycle lay on its side, front wheel missing. Someone was cooking cabbage, the smell overwhelming in the close air. Third floor, 3B. Evelyn raised her hand to knock, then hesitated. What was she doing here? What was she going to say? "Sorry for making your poverty into entertainment. Thanks for not buying a yacht." Before she could decide, the door opened. Marcus Hale looked worse in daylight. The exhaustion she'd glimpsed at the gala had settled into something deeper, the bone-tired weariness of someone who'd been fighting too long with too little. He wore the same jeans from last night, a different shirt. His eyes registered surprise, then something harder. "Miss Carter." Not a greeting, a statement of fact, neutral and careful. "I came to—" Evelyn faltered. "I wanted to see—" "See what?" Marcus didn't move from the doorway. "See where poor people live? See what your 24 hours of charity bought?" The words should have made her angry. Instead, they landed like truth. "I saw the charges," Evelyn said quietly. "Medical bills. Your daughter. My daughter is none of your business." Marcus's voice stayed level, but something dangerous flickered underneath. "You gave me a card. I used it. We're done." "Daddy?" A small voice from inside the apartment. "Who's at the door?" Marcus's expression changed instantly, the hardness melting into something gentler, more vulnerable. He glanced back into the apartment, then stepped into the hallway, pulling the door mostly closed behind him. "She doesn't need to see this," he said quietly. "She doesn't need to know what I had to do." "Had to do?" Evelyn frowned. "I gave you the card. You didn't have to take it." "Didn't I?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You stand there in your $1,000 coat talking about choices like you understand what it means to have none. My daughter needs surgery. Her heart is failing. Do you understand that? Every day without that surgery is a day she might not wake up." The words hit like physical blows. Evelyn thought of patient account 4782, of all those charges to Children's Hospital, of the surgical consultation this morning. "I didn't know—" "Of course you didn't know. You didn't ask. You just handed me your credit card like it was a game. Like my life was entertainment for you and your rich friends." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, and Evelyn saw it was shaking slightly. "You want to know what I did with your money? I paid 3 months of back rent so my daughter won't be homeless when she comes home from the hospital. I paid utilities so she'll have heat and lights. I bought her medication that costs more per month than I make. I scheduled the surgical consultation that our insurance denied 3 times. Each sentence was delivered with careful control, but Evelyn could hear the rage underneath, the justified righteous anger of someone who'd been reduced to a joke. "I'm sorry," she said, and meant it for the first time in a long time. "Are you?" Marcus studied her face. "Or are you just uncomfortable? There's a difference." From inside the apartment, a cough. Wet, painful. the sound of lungs that weren't working right. Marcus's jaw tightened. I need to go. Keep your card. I'm done with it. But you have... Evelyn checked her phone. 16 hours left. I've spent what I needed to spend. Anything more would just be greed, right? Proving your point about people like me? He reached into his pocket and pulled out her platinum card, holding it out like it burned his hand. Take it. Evelyn didn't take it. Instead, she asked the question that had been building since the first notification came through. What happened to her mother? Marcus's expression shuddered completely. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. She died, he said finally. During Emma's first surgery. Blood clot. The doctors said it was rare, unforeseeable. They said a lot of things. He looked down at the card still between them. We were supposed to do this together. Raise our daughter, fight her battles as a team. Instead, I'm alone, and Emma's heart keeps getting weaker, and all I can do is watch and work and pray that somehow I'll earn enough to save her before time runs out. The hallway felt too small, too close. Evelyn couldn't breathe properly. The charges, she managed. The hospital bills. How much does she need? For the surgery? $240,000. Marcus said it like a prison sentence. That's the uninsured cost. With our insurance, it's $90,000 out of pocket. I make $38,000 a year as a mechanic. You do the math. Evelyn did the math. It was impossible. Completely, brutally impossible. So when you walked into that gala with your $20, I was desperate. Marcus finally lowered the card but didn't return it to his pocket. I tried everything else. I thought maybe, just maybe, if the right person saw how much I wanted to help, wanted to contribute, they might, I don't know, notice, care. It was stupid. It wasn't stupid. The words came out fiercer than Evelyn intended. What I did was stupid. What I did was cruel. You were trying to save your daughter, and I turned it into a game. Another cough from inside. Worse this time. Marcus turned toward the sound, every line of his body screaming the need to go to his child. But he looked back at Evelyn, and his eyes held something she'd never seen directed at her before. Pity. The difference between you and me, Miss Carter? You think money is something to play with. I know it's something to bleed for. He pressed the platinum card into her hand. Thanks for the temporary relief, but I'll find another way. I always do. He went inside and closed the door. Evelyn stood in the hallway, holding her credit card, listening to the sound of a father comforting a sick child through walls thin enough that every word carried. It's okay, sweetheart. Just breathe. That's it. Nice and slow. I'm sorry, Daddy. I tried to be quiet. You don't ever apologize for that. Never. You understand? Soft crying, the rustle of blankets. A lullaby hummed off-key. Evelyn walked back down the stairs, past the broken bicycle, through the lobby that smelled of poverty and resignation. James opened the car door without a word, his face carefully neutral. Home, Miss Carter. Evelyn looked at the credit card in her hand, at the building where Marcus Hale was probably holding his daughter, counting the minutes until the next crisis, the next impossible choice. No, she said. Take me to Children's Hospital. Is someone ill? Yes. Evelyn pulled out her phone, already composing the email that would upend her entire trust fund strategy. Someone's been ill for a long time, and I'm just now paying attention. The car pulled away from Meridian Street, but Evelyn kept looking back until the building disappeared. She had 16 hours left on her original timeline. Marcus had returned the card with time to spare, had taken only what he absolutely needed, had maintained his dignity even when she'd tried to strip it away. She'd spent her whole life believing money was the measure of a person's worth. In one night, Marcus Hale had proved her wrong. Now she had to figure out what to do about it. The notifications had stopped coming. Her American Express account showed a total of $62,437 spent. Enough to buy temporary relief, but nowhere near enough to buy survival. Emma Hale needed $240,000. Evelyn Carter had millions sitting in accounts she barely thought about. For the first time in her life, she understood what money was actually for. Not entertainment, not status, not the endless acquisition of meaningless things. It was for this, for keeping 8-year-old girls alive long enough to grow up, for giving desperate fathers something other than despair, for bridging the gap between what a person could earn and what life demanded they pay. She'd spent 28 years spending money like it was infinite and consequence-free. Now, finally, she was going to spend it like it mattered. The administrative office at Children's Hospital Boston smelled of antiseptic and recycled air. Evelyn sat across from Director Patricia Osman, a woman in her 50s whose gray suit and tired eyes spoke of decades spent negotiating between medical necessity and financial reality. "Miss Carter, I appreciate you coming in, but I'm not sure what you're asking." Patricia folded her hands on the desk, professional but wary. "Patient information is confidential. We can't discuss specific cases without proper authorization." "I'm not asking you to discuss anything." Evelyn kept her voice steady, fighting the urge to simply throw money at the problem until it disappeared. That was the old her, the woman who'd handed a credit card to a stranger as a joke. "I want to establish a fund for families who can't afford necessary surgical procedures." Patricia's expression didn't change. "We have several charitable programs already in place. The hospital foundation, I know about the foundation. I've donated to it." Evelyn had signed the check at last year's gala, barely glancing at the amount. "This is different. I want to fund one specific surgery, pediatric cardiology, a patient currently in your system who needs immediate intervention." Now Patricia's eyes sharpened. "Miss Carter, if this is about a specific child, it's about all of them." The lie came easily, practiced. "But yes, I learned recently that there's a child here, patient number 4782, who needs heart surgery that the family can't afford. I want to cover it. We can't confirm or deny $240,000. Evelyn opened her phone, showed the wire transfer she'd authorized in the car. "Already sent to the hospital's surgical fund with instructions that it be allocated to the patient account in question. No publicity, no naming rights, no strings attached. Just make sure that child gets the surgery." Patricia stared at the screen, then at Evelyn. "You just transferred $250,000. It's money I would have spent on a car I didn't need or a vacation I wouldn't remember." Evelyn put her phone away. "At least this way it keeps someone alive. I'll need to verify this with our financial department." "Verify away." Evelyn stood. "But when you do, tell them to expedite the authorization. That child doesn't have time to wait for bureaucracy." She was halfway to the door when Patricia spoke again. "Miss Carter, why are you doing this?" Evelyn turned back. The director was watching her with an expression that wasn't quite suspicion, but wasn't quite trust either. The look of someone who'd seen too many wealthy donors demand gratitude like it was owed. "Because I can," Evelyn said simply. "And because someone showed me that I should." Outside the hospital, James was waiting by the Mercedes. Evelyn checked her phone. 3 missed calls from her father, 7 texts from Madison asking where she'd disappeared to, 1 email from her financial advisor with the subject line, "Urgent, large transfer authorization." She ignored all of them. "Back to Meridian Street," she told James. He didn't question it, just pulled smoothly into Boston traffic. Evelyn watched the city scroll past, seeing it differently now. Every person on the sidewalk carried invisible weight: medical bills, overdue rent, children who needed things their parents couldn't provide. She'd walked among them her entire life without seeing any of it, insulated by wealth that made suffering optional and distant. The apartment building looked even more depressing in afternoon light. Evelyn climbed the stairs again, her determination wavering with each step. What was she going to say? "I paid for your daughter's surgery. You're welcome." That would make her the hero of a story that wasn't about her at all. She knocked on 3B, footsteps inside, lighter than before. The door opened to reveal a small girl with dark hair and eyes too large for her face. She wore princess pajamas and carried an oxygen tank on a wheeled cart, the clear tubing running to a cannula in her nose. Emma Hale looked at Evelyn with the solemn curiosity of children who've spent too much time around adults discussing things they don't understand. "Are you my daddy's friend?" Emma's voice was soft, slightly breathless. Evelyn faltered. "I'm looking for your father. Is he home?" "He's sleeping. He worked all night and then he had to take me to my doctor appointment and he was really tired." Emma said it matter-of-factly, like adult exhaustion was just another feature of her landscape. But I'm not supposed to open the door to strangers. You're absolutely right. Evelyn knelt down, putting herself at eye level with the child. I'm Evelyn. I met your dad last night. I just wanted to talk to him about something. Emma studied her with unsettling intensity. You're really pretty, like a princess in my books. Thank you. The compliment landed awkwardly. Evelyn had been called beautiful her entire life, by people who wanted things, by magazines that made money from aspiration, by men who thought her looks were currency. Hearing it from a sick 8-year-old felt different, honest. Emma? Marcus's voice came from inside the apartment, sharp with worry. Who are you talking to? He appeared behind his daughter, barefoot and rumpled from sleep, his expression shifting from concern to shock when he saw Evelyn. What are you doing here? I needed to tell you something. Evelyn stood, acutely aware that she was having this conversation in a hallway while his daughter watched. Can we talk? Marcus looked at Emma, then at Evelyn. She could see the calculation happening, whether to trust her, whether to risk whatever new game she might be playing. Emma, sweetheart, go watch your show. I'll be right in the hallway. Okay, Daddy. Emma smiled up at Evelyn. It was nice to meet you, Princess Evelyn. She wheeled her oxygen tank back inside, and Marcus stepped into the hallway, pulling the door closed. If you're here to apologize again, I paid for the surgery. Evelyn said it quickly, before she could overthink it. I contacted Children's Hospital this morning and transferred the funds. All of it. The full uninsured amount. Marcus went very still. What? $240,000. It's already in their system, allocated to Emma's patient account. They'll contact you about scheduling, but the financial barrier is gone. She can have the surgery. For a long moment, Marcus just stared at her. Then he shook his head slowly, like he was trying to physically dislodge her words. No. No? Evelyn blinked. I don't understand. Your daughter needs... I know what my daughter needs. Marcus's voice was tight, controlled, and I also know what strings come attached to money like that. There are no strings. There are always strings. He crossed his arms, a defensive posture that made him look even more exhausted. What do you want? Media coverage? A tax write-off? Your name on a hospital wing? I want your daughter to live. The words came out harder than Evelyn intended. That's it. That's the only thing I want. Why? Marcus demanded. You don't know us. You don't owe us anything. Last night was your joke, your entertainment. Why would you suddenly care? It was the same question Patricia Osman had asked, the same question Evelyn had been asking herself since she walked out of that apartment building 3 hours ago. Because I can't unsee it, she said finally. I can't go back to not knowing. I can't sit in my penthouse apartment and pretend I didn't hear your daughter cough through these walls. I can't attend another charity gala and write another meaningless check while knowing that there's a child right here in Boston who might die because her father makes $38,000 a year instead of $380,000. Marcus's expression didn't soften. So this is about your guilt. Yes, Evelyn met his eyes. It is. I'm incredibly, profoundly guilty. I've spent my entire life wasting money on things that don't matter while people like you make impossible choices every single day. I handed you my credit card as a joke, and you used it to try to keep your daughter alive. That's not funny. That's not entertaining. That's horrifying. And I can't fix the system that makes it necessary, but I can fix this one thing. So yes, this is about my guilt, but it's also about Emma. You don't even know her. I know she calls me Princess Evelyn. Evelyn's voice cracked slightly. I know she apologizes to you for coughing. I know she's 8 years old, and she shouldn't have to think about whether her father can afford to keep her alive. Marcus turned away, one hand pressed against the hallway wall like he needed it to stay upright. His shoulders were shaking. I can't... He stopped, tried again. I've been working 3 jobs, selling everything we own. My wife's wedding ring, her mother's jewelry, our car. I've been going to plasma donation centers twice a week because they pay $40 a session. I've been doing everything I can think of, and it's still not enough. It's never enough. I know. Evelyn wanted to touch his shoulder, offer some comfort, but she didn't have the right. That's what I'm trying to say. You shouldn't have to choose between your daughter's life and financial ruin. No one should. But especially not someone who walked into a charity gala with $20 and thought it mattered. Marcus laughed, but it came out more like a sob. It did matter. That's what you don't understand. That $20 was the money I'd set aside for Emma's birthday next month. It was everything I could spare, and I brought it because I thought... He shook his head. It doesn't matter what I thought. It does matter. Evelyn's throat felt tight. You thought people who claimed to care about hungry children might actually help a father trying to feed his sick daughter. You thought showing up might make a difference. And I turned it into mockery. He finally looked at her again. His eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted beyond measure. The money's already transferred? Yes. I can't pay you back. I'm not asking you to. Then what are you asking? Evelyn hadn't thought that far ahead. She'd transferred the money on impulse, the same reckless impulse that had made her hand him the credit card, except this time aimed at fixing instead of breaking. Nothing, she said. I'm asking for nothing. People like you always want something. People like me, Evelyn repeated. You mean rich people? Bored heiresses who make games out of other people's suffering? Yes. You're right. That is what I am. What I was. She corrected herself. I don't know what I am now, but I know that I can't walk away from this. From you and Emma, not until I know she's okay. Marcus studied her face for a long time. You understand this doesn't make us friends? Yes. And it doesn't make you a good person. I know that too. And I still think what you did last night was cruel and inexcusable. It was. Evelyn agreed without hesitation. It absolutely was. Something in Marcus's posture shifted slightly. Not forgiveness, but perhaps the acknowledgement that Evelyn wasn't trying to buy absolution. The hospital will call me, he asked. Within 48 hours. That's what the director promised. He nodded slowly, processing. I should wake Emma up. Tell her... His voice broke. Tell her we can schedule the surgery. I'll go. Evelyn turned toward the stairs. Miss Carter? She looked back. Thank you. Marcus said it quietly, and she could hear how much the words cost him. I hate that I have to say it. I hate that I needed your money. But thank you for giving my daughter a chance. Evelyn nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and left before the tears could fall. James drove her home in silence. The penthouse felt even emptier than usual, all that space and light and expensive furniture that suddenly seemed obscene. Evelyn stood at her window overlooking the harbor, watching the sun set over water that looked nothing like the cracked ceiling of apartment 3B. Her phone rang. Madison. Where have you been? We've been trying to reach you all day. I had something to take care of. Evelyn kept her voice neutral. Well, you missed the best brunch. Charlotte's already planning next weekend's trip to the Berkshires, and we need to know if you're in. Madison paused. Also, what happened with your homeless guy? Did he blow through your card? He's not homeless. His name is Marcus. Evelyn closed her eyes. And no, he spent about $60,000 and gave the card back. $60,000? On what? Medical bills, rent, food, things he needed. God, how boring. Madison's disappointment was palpable. I was hoping for something dramatic. So what now? Are you going to press charges for the fraud? It wasn't fraud. Evelyn's grip tightened on her phone. I authorized every transaction. Still, $60,000 to some random guy? Your father must be furious. My father doesn't control my money. Yet, Madison laughed. Speaking of which, you should come to the Berkshires. Thomas Morrison will be there, and he was asking about you at brunch. I think he's finally going to ask you out properly. Thomas Morrison. Old money, right connections, approved by everyone who mattered in Evelyn's world. A month ago, she might have said yes. Now, the thought of spending a weekend making small talk with people who'd never known struggle made her want to scream. I can't, Evelyn said. I have plans. What plans? Personal ones. She ended the call before Madison could push further. Her father called 10 minutes later. Evelyn, we need to talk about this hospital transfer. There's nothing to talk about, Dad. I donated money to a medical fund. $240,000 is not a donation. It's a reckless waste of assets. Richard Carter's voice had that edge it got when he was trying to control his temper. Your advisor called me concerned. He said you authorized the transfer with no oversight, no discussion of tax implications. It's my money, Evelyn interrupted. Mom left it to me. I can spend it however I want. Your mother left you that money as a foundation for your future, not to throw away on strangers. I'm not throwing it away. I'm using it to save a child's life. Silence on the other end. Then, more carefully, what child? Evelyn told him. About the gala? About Marcus and Emma. About the credit card and the apartment building and the oxygen tank an 8-year-old girl had to wheel around because her heart was failing. When she finished, her father sighed. I understand the impulse to help. Your mother had the same instinct. But Evelyn, you can't save everyone. And getting personally involved like this, it's not sustainable. I'm not trying to save everyone, just this one little girl. And then what? You've set a precedent. Every desperate parent in Boston will be at your door asking for help. Every hospital will have your name on speed dial. You'll be overwhelmed within a month. Maybe. Evelyn hadn't thought about that. But I had to do something. Why? Her father asked the same question everyone else had. What makes this family different from all the others you could help? Because Marcus Hale had looked at her with pity instead of awe. Because Emma had called her Princess Evelyn with the kind of innocence Evelyn had lost decades ago. Because for the first time in her life, she'd seen what money actually meant when it was the difference between life and death, instead of the difference between luxury and slightly less luxury. I don't know, she admitted, but it is different. Her father was quiet for a moment. Your mother would have done the same thing. She had a soft heart for children. It was the first time he'd mentioned her mother without pain in his voice. Evelyn's mother had died when she was 15, cancer, quick and brutal. She'd left Evelyn money, yes, but also a legacy of generosity that Evelyn had never quite lived up to. What would she have done after? Evelyn asked. After the donation? Would she have just walked away? No. Her father's answer came without hesitation. She would have followed up, made sure the surgery happened, been there for the outcome. He paused. She would have gotten involved, and it would have broken her heart over and over again, and she wouldn't have been able to stop herself. That sounds exhausting. It was, but it also made her happy in a way that shopping and parties never could. Evelyn thought about that after they hung up. Her mother had died surrounded by medical equipment and hospital staff, fighting a battle that money couldn't win. Maybe that's why she'd spent her life trying to fight the battles that money could win. The ones where enough zeros in the bank account meant the difference between survival and loss. The next morning, Evelyn woke to an email from Children's Hospital confirming that Emma Hale's surgery had been scheduled for the following Tuesday. Preoperative appointments Monday. Full cardiac surgical team assembled. Expected recovery time 6 to 8 weeks. She forwarded it to Marcus with a simple message. Good luck. He didn't respond. Monday afternoon, Evelyn found herself driving past the hospital, watching families enter and exit through the main doors. She told herself she was just in the neighborhood, that she wasn't looking for Marcus and Emma, that she didn't need to know if they'd made it to their appointment. But she sat in the parking lot for an hour anyway, watching. Tuesday morning, she woke at 5 a.m. and couldn't get back to sleep. The surgery was scheduled for 7. It would take 6 to 8 hours, according to the surgical coordinator's email. By mid-afternoon, Emma Hale would either have a working heart or she wouldn't. Evelyn tried to work. She had emails to answer, board meetings to attend via video call, a dozen things that should have held her attention. Instead, she stared at her phone, willing it to ring with news she had no right to receive. At 2:47 p.m., it did. Unknown number, Boston area code. Hello? Miss Carter. Marcus's voice tight with emotion she couldn't read. It's Marcus Hale. Evelyn's heart stopped. Is Emma... She's okay. He said it quickly, probably hearing the panic in her question. The surgery went well, better than expected. The surgeon said her heart is already showing improved function. The relief was so intense it made Evelyn dizzy. She sat down hard on her designer couch, phone pressed to her ear. That's wonderful. Yeah, Marcus's voice cracked slightly. It is. She's in recovery now, still sedated but stable. They said if all goes well, she can come home in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Evelyn repeated, trying to imagine what those 2 weeks meant to him. That must be, I can't imagine. I wanted you to know. Marcus cut through her stammering. You paid for this. You made this possible. You deserve to know it worked. I didn't do anything. The surgeons couldn't operate without payment authorization. You know that. I know that. He was quiet for a moment. I'm still angry at you for last night at the gala, for making me feel like a joke, but I'm also grateful. Those two things can exist at the same time. They can, Evelyn agreed softly. They should. She asked about you this morning before we left for the hospital. She wanted to know if Princess Evelyn would visit while she was sick. The words hit like a physical thing. What did you tell her? I told her you were busy, that you had important things to do. Marcus paused. But if you wanted to visit, after she's awake and stable, I wouldn't stop you. It was permission, carefully given, an opening in the wall Marcus had built around himself and his daughter. I'd like that, Evelyn said. If Emma wants visitors, I'll let you know when she's ready. He hung up, and Evelyn sat in her empty penthouse, holding her phone and crying for the first time in years. Not sad tears exactly, more like the tears that come when something frozen finally starts to thaw. That evening, she got a text from Marcus. A photo of Emma sleeping in a hospital bed, monitors beeping softly in the background, but her face peaceful and free of the oxygen cannula for the first time. Below the photo, thank you. 2 words. But they meant everything. Evelyn forwarded the photo to her father with the caption, "This is what money is for." He responded an hour later, "Your mother would be proud." For the first time in 13 years, Evelyn let herself believe that might be true. 3 days passed before Marcus texted again. Evelyn had checked her phone obsessively, telling herself she wasn't waiting for news while simultaneously jumping at every notification. When the message finally came, it was brief and to the point. Emma's awake, asking for the princess. Room 412 if you want to visit. Evelyn stared at the text for a full minute, her thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of her wanted to go immediately, to see proof that Emma was truly okay. Another part recognized the massive line she'd be crossing, from anonymous donor to actual presence in their lives. Once she walked into that hospital room, there would be no pretending this was just a charitable transaction. She went anyway. Children's Hospital during visiting hours was a study in controlled chaos. Parents clutching coffee cups with exhausted eyes, siblings running down hallways despite the no-running signs, volunteers pushing carts filled with toys and books. Evelyn navigated through it, all feeling conspicuously out of place in her Burberry coat and Louboutin heels, overdressed for an environment where comfort mattered more than style. Room 412 was at the end of the pediatric cardiac wing. Through the partially open door, Evelyn could hear voices, Marcus reading something aloud, his daughter's occasional breathless laugh. She knocked softly. The reading stopped. "Come in," Marcus called. Evelyn pushed the door open and found Emma propped up in bed, surrounded by pillows and covered in a blanket decorated with cartoon unicorns. She looked impossibly small against all the medical equipment, but her eyes were bright and alert, tracking Evelyn's entrance with undisguised excitement. "Princess Evelyn!" Emma's voice was stronger than it had been in the apartment hallway, though still carrying that breathless quality. "You came!" "I did." Evelyn approached the bed carefully, hyper-aware of Marcus watching her from the chair beside it. "I heard you were asking for me." "I wanted to show you." Emma pulled the unicorn blanket down slightly, revealing a large bandage across her chest. "The doctors fixed my heart. Daddy says it's going to work better now." Evelyn's throat went tight. "That's wonderful, Emma. How do you feel?" "It hurts a little, but not like before. Before it hurt to breathe sometimes. Now it just hurts where they did the surgery." Emma explained this with the matter-of-fact tone of a child who'd become too familiar with pain. "The nurse said I was very brave. She gave me 3 stickers. 3 stickers is very impressive." Evelyn glanced at Marcus, who was watching the interaction with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Your daddy must be very proud." "He cried," Emma announced. Happy tears, he said, but I think he was also scared. Emma, Marcus's voice held gentle warning. Well, you were. Emma looked at her father with the brutal honesty of 8-year-olds. When I woke up after the surgery, you were crying and holding my hand really tight. Marcus's jaw worked for a moment before he managed to smile. Yes, sweetheart. I was very scared, but also very happy. Because the princess paid for my new heart. Emma turned back to Evelyn with absolute certainty. Daddy told me. He said you gave us money so the doctors could make me better. Evelyn shot Marcus a look. He'd told Emma? Marcus shrugged slightly, and she could see the defensive set of his shoulders, the way he was prepared to argue if she objected to his daughter knowing the truth. Your daddy worked very hard to take care of you. Evelyn chose her words carefully. I just helped a little bit. A little bit? Emma's eyebrows rose with skepticism beyond her years. Daddy said it was a lot of money, more money than we could ever save. There was no good response to that level of honesty. Evelyn settled for sitting in the empty chair on the other side of Emma's bed, putting herself at the child's eye level. I'm very glad I could help, she said finally, and I'm very happy that your surgery went well. Me too. Emma reached out and touched Evelyn's hand with surprising boldness. Are you really a princess? You look like one. I'm not a princess, just someone with a fancy dress. But you live in a castle. An apartment, a very nice apartment, but not a castle. Emma looked disappointed by this revelation. Do you have a prince? Emma, Marcus interrupted, embarrassment coloring his voice. That's not polite to ask. Why not? Teacher says we should ask questions when we want to learn things. Emma's logic was unassailable. I want to learn about Princess Evelyn. Despite everything, Evelyn found herself smiling. No prince, no castle, just a regular person who wanted to help your daddy take care of you. But why? Emma asked. The same question everyone had been asking, but from her it carried no suspicion, just genuine curiosity. Daddy says most people don't help unless they want something back. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, looking like he wanted to sink through the floor. That's not exactly what I said. It's what you meant. Emma turned to her father. You said we can't trust people who give us things because they always want something, but then you said Princess Evelyn was different, so I'm asking why. Evelyn met Marcus's eyes over Emma's head. She could see the apology forming, the instinct to protect his daughter from uncomfortable truths, but Emma deserved better than comfortable lies. Your daddy's right to be careful, Evelyn said. A lot of people do want something when they help, but sometimes people help because they need to learn something about themselves. That's why I helped. Because meeting your daddy taught me something important. What did he teach you? That being rich doesn't make you good, and being poor doesn't make you bad. Evelyn surprised herself with the honesty. Your daddy showed me that money is just a tool. What matters is how you use it. Emma considered this with the seriousness of someone processing new information. So you used your money tool to fix my heart. Exactly. That was nice of you. Emma smiled, revealing a missing front tooth. Thank you, Princess Evelyn. The simple gratitude, offered without agenda or expectation, hit harder than any elaborate thanks could have. Evelyn felt her eyes sting and blinked hard against the tears. You're very welcome, Emma. A nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. Time for vitals and medication, sweetheart. Dad, you'll need to step out for a few minutes. Marcus stood immediately, clearly familiar with the routine. Evelyn followed his lead, suddenly uncertain of the protocol. Will you come back? Emma asked as they headed for the door. To visit again? Evelyn looked at Marcus, waiting for his permission. He hesitated for just a moment before nodding slightly. If your daddy says it's okay, yes. It's okay, Daddy, right? Emma's voice held that pleading note children use when they want something badly. It's okay. Marcus agreed, though his expression remained guarded. We'll see Princess Evelyn again. In the hallway they stood in awkward silence while the nurse worked with Emma behind the closed door. Other families passed by, some with balloons, some with tears, all carrying the weight of having a sick child. Thank you, Marcus said finally, for coming. She's been talking about you since she woke up. Has she? Evelyn couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. Kids fixate on things when they're scared. You were something bright and different in a very dark time. Marcus rubbed his face, exhaustion evident in every line. She doesn't understand everything that happened, just that you helped, and that makes you safe. I'm glad she thinks so. Evelyn paused. You told her I paid for the surgery. She asked where the money came from. I've never lied to her about our situation. Didn't seem right to start now. Marcus's tone was defensive, expecting criticism. I wasn't judging. I think it's good that she knows the truth. The truth, Marcus repeated. That her life depended on a stranger's whim. That's a hard truth for an 8-year-old. It wasn't a whim, Evelyn said sharply. Not the surgery. That was deliberate. And the credit card? Marcus challenged. What was that? A mistake. Evelyn didn't flinch from it. A cruel, thoughtless mistake that I can't take back. But what came after, that was a choice, a conscious decision to try to fix what I broke. Marcus studied her face for a long moment. You didn't break anything. The system was already broken. You just exposed it. By making you part of a joke. By making me prove something I already knew. Marcus leaned against the wall, looking more tired than angry. That dignity doesn't pay bills. That pride can't buy medicine. That no matter how hard I work, how much I sacrifice, there are things I simply can't afford. You didn't teach me that, Miss Carter. Life taught me that. You just made it public. The words should have stung. Instead, they felt like absolution of a sort, an acknowledgement that while Evelyn's actions had been wrong, they hadn't been the source of Marcus's suffering, just a spotlight on it. How long will Emma need to stay in the hospital? Evelyn asked, changing the subject. Another week, maybe 2. Depends on her recovery. Marcus glanced back at the closed door. Then 6 weeks of careful monitoring at home. No school, limited activity, lots of follow-up appointments. Can you take that much time off work? The question hung between them, heavy with implication. Marcus's jaw tightened. I'll figure it out. I always do. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Marcus pushed off the wall, clearly done with the conversation. Thank you for visiting. Emma appreciated it. He turned to go back into the room. I want to help. The words came out before Evelyn could stop them. More than just the surgery, with the recovery period, the follow-up care, whatever Emma needs. Marcus turned back slowly. We've had this conversation. No, we had a conversation about the surgery. This is different. Evelyn kept her voice level, reasonable. You can't work and care for Emma 24 hours a day. Let me hire a nurse, or help with the medical bills from follow-up appointments, or... No. Marcus cut her off. I appreciate what you did. Truly. But we're not your charity case. I'm not trying to make you one. Then what are you trying to do? Marcus demanded, frustration bleeding through his careful control. You paid for the surgery. That's done. You visited Emma. She's happy. What more do you want from us? I want to make sure she stays healthy, Evelyn said. I want to make sure you don't have to choose between caring for your daughter and keeping your job. I want to fix more than just the immediate crisis. Why? The question came out harsh. Why do you care so much? Is it guilt? Boredom? Some need to play savior? Maybe all of those things, Evelyn admitted, but mostly because I can't forget what I saw in your apartment. I can't unhear Emma apologizing for coughing. I can't pretend I don't know that you've been selling everything you own to keep her alive. And I have so much money, Marcus. So much that I'll never use. Money that just sits in accounts while you bleed yourself dry for medical bills. So we're back to your guilt. Call it whatever you want. Evelyn stepped closer. But ask yourself this. Is your pride more important than Emma's health? Because that's what you're choosing right now. You're choosing to struggle alone rather than accept help that could make her recovery easier. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Evelyn's voice rose slightly, and she forced herself to lower it, aware of where they were. It's not fair that Emma got sick. It's not fair that you lost your wife. It's not fair that I have millions while you can barely afford rent. But that's reality. And reality says that I can help. You need help. And the only thing stopping it is your pride. Marcus's hands clenched into fists at his sides. You don't know anything about my pride. Then tell me, Evelyn challenged. Explain why it's better for Emma to have an exhausted, overworked father who can't give her the care she needs than to have that same father with actual support. Explain how that's putting her first. I've always put her first. Marcus's voice went dangerously quiet. Every single decision I've made since the day she was born has been about her. Don't you dare suggest otherwise. I'm not suggesting otherwise. I'm suggesting you can put her first and accept help at the same time. The door to Emma's room opened and the nurse emerged with a professional smile. All set. She's asking for her dad. Marcus didn't move immediately. He stared at Evelyn with an expression that mixed anger, exhaustion, and something that might have been desperate hope. I need to think, he said finally, about what you're offering, what it means. Take all the time you need. Evelyn pulled out her phone, typed quickly, and showed him the screen. That's my number. Call or text when you decide. Marcus didn't take the phone, but his eyes tracked the number. This doesn't mean I'm saying yes. I know. He went back into Emma's room without another word, and Evelyn stood in the hallway feeling like she'd just fought a battle with no clear winner. The drive home gave her too much time to think. She'd pushed too hard, revealed too much of her own desperate need to be useful. Marcus was right to be suspicious. People with money always wanted something, even if it was just the glow of feeling generous. Evelyn had spent her whole life watching wealthy people donate to causes they barely understood, writing checks that made them feel good without actually changing anything fundamental. But this felt different. Or maybe she just wanted it to feel different. Her phone rang as she pulled into her building's underground parking. Madison. Finally, where have you been? We've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy. Evelyn grabbed her bag and headed for the elevator. Too busy for your friends? Charlotte's furious. She planned this whole Berkshires thing around your schedule, and you haven't even responded. I told you I couldn't go. And I told Charlotte you were just being dramatic. Madison's voice carried that edge of irritation that came from having her plans disrupted. Come on, Evelyn. Whatever this phase is, you need to snap out of it. Thomas Morrison is asking about you, and you're too busy playing Mother Teresa with homeless people? He's not homeless, Evelyn said for what felt like the 100th time. His name is Marcus. His daughter just had major heart surgery, and I'm helping them through the recovery. Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, you're still involved with them? Yes. Why? Evelyn stepped into her apartment and went straight to the window overlooking the harbor. The view that usually calmed her felt empty tonight, just water and lights and expensive real estate. Because they need help, and I can provide it. There are organizations for that, Evelyn. Charities, social services, programs specifically designed to help people like them. You're not qualified to be someone's personal benefactor. Maybe not, but I'm doing it anyway. This is about that gala, isn't it? Madison's voice shifted, taking on the tone she used when she thought she'd figured something out. You feel bad about the credit card thing. That's fine. I get it, but you already paid for the surgery. You've done your penance. Move on. It's not penance, Evelyn said, though part of her wondered if that was true. I don't know what it is, but I'm not ready to walk away. Then what? You're going to adopt them? Make them your little project? Madison's laugh was sharp. That's not helping, Evelyn. That's just another version of playing with people's lives. The accusation landed hard because it wasn't entirely wrong. What was Evelyn doing if not inserting herself into a family that had survived just fine without her until she'd decided to notice them? I have to go. Evelyn ended the call before Madison could argue further. Her apartment felt too large, too silent. Evelyn wandered through rooms she barely used, past furniture she'd bought because designers said she should, art she'd purchased because it was valuable, not because it moved her. Everything was beautiful and expensive and completely meaningless. She thought about Emma's hospital room with its cheerful unicorn blanket and cheap plastic toys, about Marcus sleeping in an uncomfortable chair because leaving his daughter's side wasn't an option, about the way Emma had reached out and touched her hand with complete trust, believing that princesses were real and help came without hidden costs. 3 days passed with no word from Marcus. Evelyn checked her phone constantly, jumping at every notification. Madison called twice more, each time with increasing frustration. Her father sent an email about appropriate boundaries with charity recipients. Charlotte left a passive-aggressive voicemail about the Berkshire's trip Evelyn had missed. She ignored all of them. On the fourth day, a text finally came through. Emma comes home Friday. She wants you there. Evelyn stared at the message, reading it 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. Not, I've decided to accept your help, or we need to talk about your offer. Just an invitation to be present for an important moment, filtered through a child's wishes. She typed back, what time? 10 a.m., Children's Hospital main entrance. I'll be there. Friday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth, the kind of early spring day that made Boston feel almost optimistic. Evelyn dressed carefully, nice enough to show respect, casual enough not to look like she was attending a business meeting. When James pulled up to the hospital, she was 15 minutes early. Marcus was already there, standing near the entrance with a nervous energy that made him pace slightly. He looked like he'd actually slept for once, though the shadows under his eyes would take more than a few good nights to fade. You came, he said when he saw her. You invited me. Emma invited you. I just delivered the message. Marcus shoved his hands in his pockets. She's been talking about it all week, the princess coming to take her home. I'm not taking her anywhere. You are. I'm just visiting. Evelyn kept her voice gentle, aware of the line they were navigating. Right. Visiting. Marcus looked like he wanted to say more, but whatever it was got swallowed by a visible effort at control. Thank you for coming. She'll be happy. They went upstairs together, the elevator ride passing in awkward silence. Emma's room had been transformed. Balloons tied to her bed rails, a welcome home banner across one wall, stuffed animals clustered on every available surface. The nursing staff had clearly gotten attached to their young patient. Emma herself was dressed in regular clothes for the first time since the surgery, sitting on the edge of her bed with her legs swinging excitedly. When she saw Evelyn, her whole face lit up. Princess Evelyn, you're here for my going home party. I wouldn't miss it. Evelyn approached the bed, genuinely smiling for the first time in days. How do you feel? Good. The doctor said my heart sounds perfect. Listen. Emma grabbed Evelyn's hand and pressed it against her chest, over the bandage. Through the thin fabric, Evelyn could feel it. Steady, strong, the rhythm of life that money had bought but medicine had restored. That's wonderful, Emma. Daddy says I have to be careful for a while. No running, no jumping, lots of rest. But then I can go back to school and see my friends and play outside again. Emma's eyes shone with plans and possibilities. And I asked Daddy if you could come to my house sometimes. He said maybe. Will you? Evelyn glanced at Marcus, who was watching this exchange with an expression somewhere between resignation and something softer. If your daddy says it's okay, I'd like that very much. A different nurse appeared, the discharge coordinator armed with papers and instructions. The process took longer than expected, filled with medication schedules and warning signs and follow-up appointments. Marcus listened with the focused intensity of someone who knew that missing a detail could cost everything. Finally, with paperwork signed and a wheelchair mandatory despite Emma's protests, they were ready. One last thing, the nurse said, smiling at Emma. You've been such a brave patient. We have something for you. She produced a small box, and Emma opened it with eager hands. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a heart charm. From all of us on the cardiac floor, to remind you how strong your heart is. Emma's eyes filled with tears, the good kind, the kind that came from being seen and valued. Marcus helped her put it on, his hands shaking slightly as he worked the clasp. Thank you. Emma touched the charm gently. I'll never take it off. The journey from the 4th floor to the main entrance felt ceremonial somehow. Staff members stopped to say goodbye. Other families smiled and waved, and through it all, Emma sat in her wheelchair like it was a throne, her hand never leaving the heart charm around her neck. Outside, Marcus's car, an old Honda that had clearly seen better days, was parked in the patient pickup zone. He moved to help Emma up, but she turned to Evelyn first. Will you help me, Princess Evelyn? Please? Marcus started to object, to explain that he could handle it, but something in Evelyn's expression stopped him. She carefully lifted Emma from the wheelchair, acutely aware of how light the child was, how fragile she felt despite the successful surgery. I've got you, Evelyn murmured, settling Emma into the car seat that Marcus had obviously installed with extreme care. Thank you. Emma hugged her suddenly, thin arms tight around Evelyn's neck. For everything, for being my princess. Evelyn held her gently, terrified of hurting her, overwhelmed by the trust this child offered so freely. You're very welcome, sweetheart. When she pulled back, both Emma and Marcus were watching her with similar expressions, hope and wariness in equal measure. I'll follow you home, Evelyn heard herself say. If that's okay. Just to make sure everything's settled. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, to maintain the independence he'd fought so hard to preserve. But then Emma said, Please, Daddy? And whatever resistance he had crumbled. Okay, just to the apartment. The drive to East Boston felt longer than it should have, each mile carrying the weight of decisions being made in real time. When they pulled up to the apartment building on Meridian Street, Evelyn saw it with different eyes than before. Not judgment now, but recognition of a home that had sheltered a father and daughter through impossible circumstances. Marcus carried Emma upstairs, and Evelyn followed with the bag of discharge supplies. The apartment looked different too, cleaner, more organized, a visible effort to prepare for Emma's homecoming. Someone had put flowers on the kitchen table. A new blanket waited on the couch. We redecorated while you were gone, Marcus told Emma as he settled her carefully on the couch. Your room too. New curtains, fresh paint. You'll see. Can I look now? Later. Rest first. Doctor's orders. Emma pouted but didn't argue, too tired from the excitement to push hard. Within minutes, she was drowsing against the pillows, the heart charm glinting in the afternoon light streaming through the window. In the kitchen, out of Emma's hearing, Marcus turned to Evelyn. About your offer. He kept his voice low. To help with the recovery period. Evelyn waited, barely breathing. I can take 2 weeks off work using sick days and vacation time I've saved. After that, I'm out of options. I can't afford to lose my job, but I also can't leave Emma alone. Marcus's hands gripped the counter edge. So if you're serious, if you really want to help, I need someone who can be here during the day while I work. Someone Emma trusts. Someone who won't make her feel like a burden. A nurse? Evelyn asked carefully. If you can arrange it. Someone good, someone kind. Marcus met her eyes. And I'll pay you back. I don't know how or when, but I will. No, Evelyn said firmly. This isn't a loan. This is help. There's a difference. To you, maybe. To me, it's debt. Then consider it an investment, Evelyn found herself saying. In Emma's future. In making sure she grows up healthy and has every opportunity. That's the only return I want. Marcus studied her face for a long moment, searching for the catch, the hidden agenda. Evelyn let him look, offering nothing but honesty. Okay, he said finally. We'll try it, but with boundaries. The nurse comes during work hours only. No more surprise visits, no more money unless we specifically ask. And if it doesn't work, if Emma gets uncomfortable or I feel like we're losing control of our own lives, we end it. Agreed? Agreed. Evelyn extended her hand. Marcus shook it, his grip firm despite the exhaustion evident in every line of his body. Thank you. Again. I hate that I have to keep saying it, but thank you. You don't have to say it at all. Evelyn looked past him to where Emma slept peacefully on the couch, her new necklace rising and falling with each breath. She's worth it. You both are. For the first time since that night at the gala, Marcus's expression softened into something that might eventually become trust. Yeah, he said quietly. We are. The nurse Evelyn hired was named Rosa Mendez, a woman in her early 50s with kind eyes and 30 years of pediatric care experience. She arrived at the Meridian Street apartment on Monday morning carrying a bag of supplies and an easy confidence that immediately put Marcus at ease. Mr. Hale, I'm Rosa. Miss Carter spoke very highly of your daughter. She shook Marcus's hand firmly, then turned her attention to Emma, who was watching from the couch with cautious curiosity. And you must be Emma. I hear you're recovering from heart surgery. That makes you pretty brave. The doctors fixed me, Emma said, touching her necklace. Now I have a perfect heart. Well, let's make sure it stays perfect. Rosa settled into the chair beside the couch with practiced ease. Your dad needs to go to work, but I'll be right here. We can read or watch movies or just talk. Whatever makes you comfortable. Marcus hesitated at the door, coat in hand, clearly torn between the necessity of keeping his job and the instinct to never leave his daughter's side. "Dad, go," Emma said with the kind of exasperated affection only children could manage. "Rosa's nice, and Princess Evelyn sent her, so she must be good." The mention of Evelyn made Marcus's jaw tighten slightly, but he nodded. "I'll be back by 6. Rosa has my number if anything changes." "We'll be fine," Rosa assured him. "I've handled much fussier patients than this one." After Marcus left, the apartment settled into a quieter rhythm. Evelyn had made herself scarce for the first week, honoring her promise about boundaries. But on Thursday afternoon, her phone rang with an unknown number. "Miss Carter, it's Rosa Mendez." Evelyn's heart jumped. "Is Emma okay?" "She's fine. Actually, she's asking for you, says she wants to show you the picture she drew." Rosa's voice held a smile. "I told her I'd check if you were available." "I can be there in 20 minutes. "No rush. We're not going anywhere." The drive to East Boston had become familiar now, the route imprinted in Evelyn's mind. She found street parking 2 blocks from the apartment building and walked the rest of the way, noticing details she'd missed before. The bodega on the corner where Marcus probably bought groceries, the playground with rusty equipment where Emma would someday play again, the neighbors who nodded greeting from stoops and windows. Rosa answered the door with a welcoming smile. "She's been waiting by the window, spotted your car before you even parked." Emma was indeed by the window, bouncing slightly on her toes in excitement before remembering she wasn't supposed to bounce. "Princess Evelyn, come see what I made." The coffee table was covered in art supplies, crayons, markers, construction paper in every color. Emma's creation was a crayon drawing of what appeared to be 3 people, a tall man, a small girl, and a woman in a very elaborate dress. "That's me and Daddy and you." Emma pointed to each figure. "We're at the hospital on the day I came home. See? You're wearing your pretty coat, and I have my heart necklace." The drawing was objectively terrible in the way all children's art was terrible. Proportions wrong, colors chaotic, faces more suggestion than reality. But something about seeing herself rendered in crayon, included in this pivotal moment of Emma's life, made Evelyn's throat tight. "It's beautiful, Emma. You can have it. Rosa said we could tape it up, but I want you to keep it." Emma held out the drawing with both hands, a precious offering. "Are you sure? Don't you want it for your room?" "I can make another one, but you should have this one so you remember." "Remember what?" "That you helped us. That you're our friend." Emma said it with the simple certainty of a child who believed friendship was just that easy. Evelyn took the drawing carefully, as if it were worth more than all the expensive art in her penthouse. "Thank you. I'll treasure it." "Will you stay for a while? Rosa makes really good cookies. She brought some today." Over cookies and apple juice, Emma chattered about her week, the books Rosa had read to her, the movies they'd watched, how her daddy had been less tired lately because he could sleep at night instead of worrying. Rosa occasionally interjected with gentle corrections when Emma tried to move too quickly, or reach for things she shouldn't, maintaining the careful balance between caregiver and companion. "Your daddy seems happier," Evelyn observed, watching Emma dunk her cookie in juice. "He is. He sings now, not a lot, but sometimes." Emma's face grew more serious. "Before, he was always scared. I could tell even though he tried to hide it. But now he sings in the morning when he makes breakfast." The image of Marcus singing, this exhausted, burdened man finding reason for music, struck something deep in Evelyn's chest. "I'm glad he's less worried." "It's because of you," Emma stated matter-of-factly. "And Rosa. You both help, so Daddy doesn't have to do everything alone anymore." Rosa caught Evelyn's eye over Emma's head, her expression knowing. They'd had this conversation before, apparently, Emma's child-logic understanding of the dynamics in her life. When Marcus came home at 6, he found Evelyn still there, helping Emma put away the art supplies while Rosa prepared a simple dinner in the kitchen. "You're here," he said, not quite a question. "Emma called. Through Rosa, asked me to visit." Evelyn stood, suddenly aware that she'd overstayed. "I should go. You're probably tired." "Stay for dinner." Marcus cut her off, then seemed surprised by his own words. "Rosa made enough for everyone. and Emma would like it. I would, Emma confirmed from the couch. Please stay, Princess Evelyn. Rosa made chicken and rice and it smells so good. So Evelyn stayed, sitting at the small kitchen table in the cramped apartment, eating home-cooked food that tasted better than anything from the expensive restaurants she usually frequented. The conversation was stilted at first, all of them navigating the strange new dynamic they'd created. But Emma's enthusiasm was infectious, and gradually the tension eased. School called today, Marcus said to Emma as they ate. Mrs. Patterson wants to know when you'll be back. What did you tell her? Emma's eyes were hopeful. That we'll see what the doctor says at your appointment next week. If everything looks good, maybe part-time to start. I miss my friends. Emma pushed rice around her plate. In art class, we were learning about famous painters. You can practice at home, Rosa suggested. I brought more supplies for tomorrow. After dinner, Evelyn helped clear the table while Marcus got Emma ready for bed. She could hear them in the other room, the quiet routine of father and daughter, medication schedules and teeth brushing, and the selection of which stuffed animal would sleep in the bed that night. He's a good father, Rosa said quietly, washing dishes at the sink. Yes. Evelyn dried a plate, the domestic normalcy of the action foreign and somehow grounding. He's sacrificed everything for her. And now he's learning to accept help. That's harder for some people than the sacrificing. Rosa glanced at her. You're doing a good thing here, Miss Carter. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I'm just trying to fix what I broke. You didn't break this family. Life broke them. You're just helping put the pieces back together. Rosa handed her another plate. There's a difference. Marcus emerged from Emma's room, closing the door softly behind him. She wants to say goodnight to you, both of you. In the small bedroom painted in fresh lavender, Emma was tucked under blankets, surrounded by stuffed animals and the glow of a nightlight shaped like a moon. She looked impossibly small and impossibly brave, this child who'd survived so much. Good night, sweet girl. Rosa kissed Emma's forehead. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, Rosa. Emma turned to Evelyn. Will you come back soon? If your daddy says it's okay. Emma looked at Marcus with those big eyes that had probably gotten her everything she'd ever wanted from him. Daddy? We'll see, Marcus said, but his tone suggested yes. Sleep now. You need rest. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything. Outside Emma's room, Rosa gathered her things and said her goodbyes, leaving Marcus and Evelyn alone in the small living room. The apartment felt different at night, more intimate, more real. This was their home, their life, and Evelyn was acutely aware she was still a guest in it. Thank you for staying, Marcus said finally. Emma really has taken to you. She's easy to love. Evelyn meant it. You've done an incredible job with her. I've done what I had to do. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Evelyn had learned meant he was uncertain. But I couldn't have done this part, the recovery, without Rosa, without your help. I need you to know I recognize that. You don't have to— Let me finish, Marcus interrupted gently. I've been angry at you since that night at the gala, angry at how you made me feel, at the game you played with our lives, and I'm still processing that anger. But I also need to acknowledge that what you've done since, the surgery, the nurse, showing up for Emma, that's not a game, that's real help, and it matters. Evelyn nodded, not trusting herself to speak. But I need to understand something, Marcus continued. Why are you still here? You paid for the surgery. You hired Rosa. You've done more than anyone could expect. So why do you keep coming back? It was the question Evelyn had been asking herself for weeks. She tried out different answers in her mind: guilt, responsibility, boredom, the need to feel useful. But standing in Marcus's apartment, with Emma sleeping in the next room and the drawing she'd made sitting in Evelyn's purse, the truth was simpler and more complicated. Because when I'm here, I feel like I matter. The words came out raw, unpolished. My whole life, I've been surrounded by people who want my money, my connections, my name. Everything I am is tied to what I have. But Emma doesn't care about any of that. She just sees someone who helped her daddy, and that's enough. She calls me Princess Evelyn, like it's an honor, not a joke. And you— Evelyn met his eyes. You don't want anything from me except to keep showing up. No agenda, no manipulation, just honesty. I've never had that before. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. That's a lot of weight to put on a sick kid and her struggling father. I know. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make this about me. But it is about you, Marcus said, not unkindly. That's what you're figuring out, isn't it? That helping us is also helping yourself, finding purpose in our recovery. That sounds incredibly selfish when you say it like that. Maybe. Or maybe it's just honest. Marcus moved to the window, looking out at the street below. My wife used to say that nobody does anything purely for others. Even the best actions come from some need in ourselves. She said that's okay, as long as you're honest about it. It was the first time Marcus had mentioned his wife without pain cracking through his voice. Evelyn approached carefully, aware she was on sacred ground. What was she like? Marcus smiled slightly, still looking out the window. Practical, smart. She didn't take any of my bullshit. He paused. We met in high school. She was going to be a nurse, wanted to help people. We got married young, had Emma young. Everyone said we were crazy, that we'd never make it. Then Emma got sick, and we had to prove them all wrong just to survive. She sounds remarkable. She was. Marcus's voice went rough. When she died, I thought I'd die too. The grief was, I can't even describe it. But Emma needed me, and her heart was getting worse, and I couldn't afford to fall apart. So I didn't. I just kept moving, kept working, kept fighting, because that's what Sarah would have wanted. Sarah. Evelyn repeated the name softly. Yeah, Sarah Hale. She would have liked you, I think, or at least respected what you're doing. Marcus turned from the window. She always said rich people had a responsibility to do better, that having money was a test of character. I've been failing that test for 28 years. Maybe. Or maybe you just needed the right wake-up call. Marcus's expression was unreadable. Either way, you're doing better now. Sarah would have appreciated that. The conversation felt like a turning point, some invisible barrier coming down. Marcus offered her coffee, and they sat at the kitchen table talking for another hour. About Sarah, about Emma before she got sick, about the life they'd had when things were simpler. Evelyn shared stories too, carefully edited versions of her own life that highlighted the emptiness rather than the excess. Your friends must think you've lost your mind, Marcus observed. They do. Madison calls twice a week to tell me I'm having some kind of breakdown. Evelyn smiled without humor. My father is slightly more supportive, but he also thinks this is a phase. Is it? No, Evelyn said with certainty. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's not a phase. Something changed when I met you and Emma. Something fundamental. I can't go back to who I was before. People can always go back. It's easier than moving forward. Maybe for some people, but I've seen what forward looks like now. I've seen Emma heal, seen you sleep for more than 4 hours straight, seen what money can actually do when it's used for something that matters. I can't unsee that. Marcus studied her face in the dim kitchen light. You know this can't last forever, right? Emma will heal, we'll get back on our feet, and eventually you'll need to return to your life. I know. Though the thought of returning to her empty penthouse, her vapid friends, her meaningless routine made Evelyn's stomach turn. But we're not there yet. No, Marcus agreed. We're not. The weeks developed their own rhythm. Rosa came weekday mornings, caring for Emma, while Marcus worked at the auto shop that had employed him for 6 years. Evelyn visited 2 or 3 times a week, timing her arrivals for late afternoon so she could see both Emma and Marcus. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the boundaries they'd established began to blur. Emma's follow-up appointments showed steady improvement. Her heart function was normalizing, her energy increasing, the grayish tint that had colored her skin for years giving way to healthy pink. The cardiologist used words like remarkable and excellent prognosis, and each positive report felt like a small miracle. She can return to school part-time next week, Marcus told Evelyn after one appointment, unable to hide his relief. 3 hours a day to start, building up gradually. That's wonderful. Evelyn had been sitting with Emma in the waiting room helping her complete a puzzle. She must be excited. She's terrified, Marcus corrected with a slight smile. She's been gone so long she's worried her friends will have forgotten her. They won't forget her, Emma said confidently, fitting the last puzzle piece into place. Best friends don't forget. On Emma's first day back to school, Marcus asked if Evelyn wanted to come along. It was a Tuesday morning, and Evelyn had been in a board meeting when the text came through. She'd looked at the message for approximately 3 seconds before texting back yes and walking out of the conference room mid-presentation. "Evelyn, where are you going?" her father had called after her. "We're not finished. Family emergency." She'd lied and then wondered if it was actually a lie. The elementary school was small, old brick and chain-link fence, the kind of building that had educated generations of East Boston children. Marcus held Emma's hand as they walked from the parking lot, Rosa on Emma's other side, Evelyn trailing slightly behind like she wasn't quite sure she belonged. "What if they're learning things I don't know?" Emma worried, her free hand clutching her backpack strap. "Then you'll learn them," Marcus said. "That's what school is for." "What if I get tired?" "Then you tell Mrs. Patterson and she'll call me." Marcus knelt down at the school entrance, eye level with his daughter. "Emma, listen, you're the bravest person I know. You survived heart surgery. You can handle 3 hours of 3rd grade. Will you wait? Outside? Just in case?" Marcus's face did something complicated. Love and concern and the awareness that he couldn't always be there to catch her. "I have to go to work, sweetheart, but Rosa will pick you up and I'll be home right after." "I'll wait," Evelyn heard herself say. "If you want, I can stay in the parking lot just until you know you're okay." Marcus looked at her with surprise, but Emma's face lit up. "Really? You'll wait for me?" "If it helps." Evelyn shrugged like it was nothing, like she didn't have a dozen other places she was supposed to be. "It helps." Emma hugged her father, then Rosa, then Evelyn. "Okay, I'm ready." They watched her walk into the building, small and brave in her purple backpack, glancing back twice for reassurance. When she disappeared around a corner, Marcus let out a breath he'd probably been holding for weeks. "You don't have to stay," he said to Evelyn. "I'm sure you have nothing more important than this." Evelyn cut him off. "I'll wait the 3 hours. Make sure she's really okay." "That's—" Marcus shook his head. "Thank you." Rosa left for her next client, leaving Marcus and Evelyn standing in the parking lot like uncertain sentries. The morning was cool, late March edging toward spring, and they found a bench with a view of the school entrance. "This is weird, right?" Marcus said after a few minutes of silence. "You sitting on a public school bench for 3 hours when you could be anywhere else?" "Completely weird," Evelyn agreed, "but also exactly where I need to be." "Why?" It was the question he kept asking in different forms, like he couldn't quite believe her answers. "Because Emma asked me to stay. And because somewhere in the last 2 months you and Emma stopped being my charity case and started being—" Evelyn paused, searching for the right word. "Important. You became important to me." Marcus was quiet, processing. "You know people are going to talk. Already are talking, probably. Rich woman spending all her time with working-class family. Implications, assumptions. Let them talk." Evelyn had stopped caring what Madison and Charlotte thought weeks ago. "I'm serious. Your reputation? My reputation is that I'm a bored heiress who throws money at problems. Let them add, actually cares about people to the list." Evelyn met his eyes. "Unless you're uncomfortable. Unless this is crossing lines for you." "I don't know what lines we're crossing anymore," Marcus admitted. "But I know Emma's happier than she's been in years. I know I sleep better now because I'm not constantly terrified she'll die while I'm at work. I know that having you around feels—" He stopped, seeming to reconsider his words. "Feels what?" "Normal," Marcus said finally. "Like maybe this is what family is supposed to feel like. People showing up for each other, not because they have to, but because they want to." The word family hung between them, too big and too fragile to examine closely. They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching other parents drop off children, school buses arrive, the ordinary rhythm of a Tuesday morning that felt somehow extraordinary. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said eventually. "And I want an honest answer, not the polite one." Okay. What happens when Emma's fully recovered? When she doesn't need Rosa anymore? When I can go back to normal work hours? When we're just a regular family again? Marcus looked at her seriously. Do you disappear? Return to your life and forget about us? Evelyn had been dreading this question because she didn't have a good answer. I don't know. I don't want to disappear, but I also don't want to overstay my welcome or become some permanent fixture in your lives that makes you uncomfortable. You're already a permanent fixture, Marcus pointed out. Emma talks about you constantly, draws pictures of you, includes you in her plans for her birthday party next month. You can't walk away now without breaking her heart. I don't want to break her heart. The thought was physically painful. Then what do you want? To keep showing up, Evelyn said simply. For Emma's school plays and doctor appointments and birthday parties. For the ordinary moments and the important ones. I want to be someone you can count on, not just when there's a crisis, but always. Marcus absorbed this, his expression unreadable. That's a big commitment for someone who didn't know we existed 2 months ago. I know, but I've never been more certain of anything. What about your other life, your friends, your social obligations, the man your father wants you to marry? Thomas Morrison? Evelyn laughed. I'm not going to marry Thomas Morrison. I'm barely tolerating my friends, and my social obligations feel increasingly pointless. She paused. This is the first thing I've done in years that actually matters. I'm not walking away from that. Even if it's messy and complicated and doesn't come with any guarantee of what happens next. Especially then, Evelyn said. The things that matter are always messy and complicated. Before Marcus could respond, the school door opened and a small figure came running out. Emma, her face bright with excitement, followed by a concerned-looking teacher. She said she felt fine, but she wanted to see if you were really waiting. The teacher called to them. Emma ran to the bench, slightly breathless. You're still here, both of you. We're still here. Marcus caught her in a careful hug. But you're supposed to be in class. I know, but I wanted to check. Mrs. Patterson said I could if I promised to go right back. Emma turned to Evelyn. You really waited. I said I would. Nobody's ever waited for me before, except Daddy. Emma's eyes were suspiciously bright. Thank you, Princess Evelyn. She hugged Evelyn quickly, then ran back to her teacher and disappeared into the school again. Marcus wiped his eyes roughly. She's going to be okay. Yes, Evelyn agreed, her own throat tight. She is. They sat for the remaining 2.5 hours, talking about everything and nothing. Marcus told her about the restored vintage Mustang he'd been working on at the shop, a side project that was more art than work. Evelyn confessed she'd never actually learned to drive properly, that James had been chauffeuring her around since she was 16. You're 28 and you can't drive, Marcus was incredulous. I can drive, I just choose not to. Why would I, when someone else can do it better? That's the most privileged thing I've ever heard. I know, Evelyn laughed. It sounds absurd even to me now. When school let out, Emma emerged glowing with happiness, full of stories about her friends and the art project they'd started and how Mrs. Patterson had let her sit near the window. Rosa appeared to drive Emma home, but Emma insisted on saying goodbye to both Marcus and Evelyn first. Today was a good day, Emma announced. One of the best. Marcus kissed the top of her head. I'm so glad, sweetheart. I'll see you tonight. After they left, Marcus turned to Evelyn. Thank you. For staying. For being here. For all of it. You keep thanking me. Because I keep meaning it. Marcus hesitated, then made a decision. Emma's birthday is in 3 weeks. Small party, just a few friends from school, cake and games at the apartment. Nothing fancy, but if you wanted to come, I'd love to. Evelyn didn't even have to think about it. Fair warning, it's going to be chaos. 9-year-old girls are loud and messy and… Perfect, Evelyn finished. It sounds perfect. Marcus smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, it reached his eyes fully. Yeah, it kind of does. Walking back to her car, Evelyn felt something shift inside her chest. Not dramatically, not like the movies portrayed life-changing moments, but quietly. Like a door opening onto a room she hadn't known existed. 3 hours on a school bench shouldn't have mattered, but it did. It mattered more than 1,000 charity galas, more than every expensive purchase she'd ever made, more than anything she'd done in her entire privileged life. She'd shown up. She'd kept her word. And in doing so, she'd become part of something real. Her phone buzzed with texts from Madison, her father, her financial advisor. She ignored them all. There would be time to deal with her other life later. Right now, she had a 9-year-old's birthday party to plan, and that was infinitely more important than anything else on her schedule. Planning a 9-year-old's birthday party turned out to be more complicated than Evelyn had anticipated. She'd attended elaborate events her entire life. Weddings that cost more than houses, galas with 5-course meals, charity auctions with million-dollar items. But none of that prepared her for the specific challenge of making Emma Hale's 9th birthday special without overwhelming the small apartment or making Marcus uncomfortable with extravagance. "I was thinking maybe a bounce house," Evelyn suggested over coffee at Marcus's kitchen table one evening, 2 weeks before the party. Emma was already asleep, and they'd fallen into the habit of these quiet conversations after her bedtime. Marcus looked at her like she'd suggested hiring a circus. "Where exactly would we put a bounce house? The apartment is 800 square feet. The parking lot? The playground down the street? It's March in Boston. Still too cold, and Emma can't overexert herself anyway." Marcus shook his head. "We're keeping it simple. Cake, games, maybe pin the tail on the donkey or something. 6 kids maximum because that's all we can fit." "What about decorations?" "Streamers, balloons, whatever's at the dollar store." Marcus saw Evelyn's expression and sighed. "I know it's not what you're used to, but it's what Emma's used to. She'll be happy just having her friends here." Evelyn bit back the urge to argue that Emma deserved more than dollar store decorations, that she could hire a party planner, rent a venue, make it the kind of celebration most kids only dreamed about. But she was learning, slowly, painfully, that more money didn't always mean better. Sometimes it just meant different, and different wasn't what Emma needed. "Okay, simple. I can do simple." Evelyn pulled out her phone to make notes. "But I'm bringing the cake. From that bakery on Newberry Street that does the custom designs. Emma can pick whatever she wants." "That bakery charges $200 for a cake. And Emma's turning 9 after surviving heart surgery. Let me do this one thing." Evelyn met his eyes. "Please." Marcus studied her for a moment, then relented. "Fine, but nothing ridiculous, no 5-tier monstrosity, just a normal birthday cake that happens to taste good." "Deal." The next day, Evelyn took Emma to the bakery during one of her afternoon visits. The shop was all white marble in glass cases, filled with elaborate creations that looked too beautiful to eat. Emma pressed her nose against the displays, eyes wide with wonder. "I can really pick anything?" she asked for the 3rd time, like she couldn't quite believe it. "Anything you want," Evelyn confirmed. "What's your favorite flavor?" "Chocolate, with vanilla frosting, and maybe—" Emma pointed to a display cake covered in edible flowers. "Can they do flowers? Pink ones?" "They can do whatever you want." The baker, a cheerful woman named Marie, showed Emma pictures of previous creations. Emma studied each one seriously, occasionally glancing at Evelyn for confirmation that this was really happening. "This one," Emma finally decided, pointing to a 2-tier cake decorated with pastel flowers and delicate piping. "But can the flowers spell out my name? E-M-M-A?" "Absolutely." Marie made notes. "And this is for your 9th birthday?" "Yes! I'm going to be 9 on April 7th. I was supposed to have a party last year, but I was too sick. Daddy said we'd do something small when I got better, but then I needed surgery and—" Emma's stream of consciousness explanation was pure child logic, connecting every event in her life to this single moment. Marie listened with patient kindness, the kind that suggested she'd heard countless birthday stories over the years. "Well, this is going to be a very special cake for a very special birthday." Walking back to the car, Emma slipped her hand into Evelyn's. "Thank you for the cake. It's going to be the prettiest one ever." "You're very welcome, sweetheart. Can I ask you something?" Emma looked up at her with those serious eyes. "Are you going to be at my party? Daddy said you were, but I wanted to make sure. Wild horses couldn't keep me away." "What does that mean?" "It means yes, definitely. Nothing could stop me from being there." Evelyn squeezed her hand gently. "I promise." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing. My friend Sophia said you're my fairy godmother, like in Cinderella. Are you? Evelyn's chest tightened. I don't know if I'm that magical. You kind of are. You made my daddy stop being so worried all the time. And you paid for my heart surgery, and now you're getting me the best birthday cake ever. Emma counted these items on her fingers like evidence in a case. That's pretty much what fairy godmothers do. I think fairy godmothers are supposed to be old ladies with wands. Maybe you're a modern one, a princess fairy godmother. Emma seemed pleased with this logic. That would make sense because you dress like a princess and help people like a fairy godmother. There was no arguing with that reasoning. Evelyn just smiled and helped Emma into the car, her heart feeling too full for her chest. That evening, she got a text from Marcus. Emma hasn't stopped talking about the cake. You've created a monster. Evelyn replied, a happy monster, though. The happiest. Thank you for today. Stop thanking me. We agreed you'd stop thanking me. Can't help it. Some things deserve thanks. The week before the party, Evelyn's carefully maintained separation between her two worlds finally collapsed. She was having lunch with her father at his office, a monthly obligation she'd been avoiding but couldn't postpone any longer, when he brought up what he called the situation. Evelyn, we need to discuss your recent behavior. Richard Carter set down his fork with careful precision. I've been patient, understanding even, but this has gone on long enough. What has gone on long enough? Though Evelyn knew exactly what he meant. This family you've become involved with, the mechanic and his daughter, you're spending an inappropriate amount of time with them. Inappropriate how? Evelyn kept her voice level. I helped them through a medical crisis. Now I'm supporting their recovery. What's inappropriate about that? The extent of your involvement. Her father pulled out his phone, scrolling through what appeared to be a calendar. In the past 6 weeks, you've missed 4 board meetings, 3 charity events, and that dinner with the Morrisons that I specifically asked you to attend. When I ask where you are, the answer is always the same: East Boston. Emma has a father and a nurse you hired. She doesn't need you there constantly. Richard's voice sharpened. People are talking, Evelyn. They're saying you've become obsessed with this family, that you're trying to play house with people who aren't your responsibility. Maybe I want them to be my responsibility. The words came out harder than Evelyn intended. Maybe I'm tired of board meetings and charity events where everyone writes checks and congratulates themselves for caring. Maybe being in East Boston with people who actually need help feels more real than anything I've done in my entire life. Her father was quiet for a moment. Your mother used to say things like that. Good. Maybe I should have been listening to her instead of learning how to be comfortably useless from everyone else. You're not useless, Evelyn. You sit on important boards. You manage significant charitable contributions. I rubber stamp decisions made by other people and sign checks I'll never miss. That's not contribution. That's performance. Evelyn leaned forward. Do you know what Emma calls me? Her fairy godmother. Do you know the last time anyone looked at me and saw something other than dollar signs? The last time I felt like I mattered for who I am instead of what I have? And you think this mechanic sees you differently? The question hit its target. Evelyn faltered because she didn't know if Marcus saw her differently or if he just saw her as useful in a way her usual social circle didn't. I think Emma sees me differently, she said finally. I think when I show up at her school or read her bedtime stories or help her pick out a birthday cake, she's not calculating what I'm worth or what I can do for her career. She's just happy I'm there, and that matters more than any board meeting ever could. Richard studied his daughter's face with the careful attention he usually reserved for business negotiations. You're in love with him, aren't you? The father. Evelyn's immediate instinct was to deny it, to explain that this wasn't about romance, but about purpose and meaning and connection. But her father's expression stopped her, not judgment, but recognition, like he was seeing something he'd witnessed before. I don't know what I feel about Marcus, she admitted. It's complicated. But I know I love Emma. I know I can't imagine not being part of their lives. And I know that my old life, the parties, the shopping, the endless cycle of meaningless luxury, I can't go back to that and pretend it's enough. Your mother felt the same way. Near the end, Richard's voice went soft. She said she'd wasted too much time on things that didn't matter. She made me promise to make sure you didn't do the same. I didn't know that. I didn't tell you. You were 15, grieving, and I thought protecting you meant maintaining stability, keeping everything the same. He paused. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have encouraged you to find meaning earlier, before you spent a decade going through the motions. The admission hung between them, heavy with years of unspoken expectations and careful distance. I'm going to Emma's birthday party on Saturday, Evelyn said quietly. It's in a tiny apartment in East Boston, and there will be 6 9-year-old girls eating cake and playing games. It's probably going to be chaos. But I promised Emma I'd be there, and I'm not breaking that promise. Not for a board meeting, not for a charity event, not for anything. Her father nodded slowly. Then you should go. Your mother would have approved. Really? Really. She believed in showing up for people, in being present for the moments that matter. Richard picked up his fork again, signaling the serious part of the conversation was over. Just be careful, Evelyn. Getting this involved with people. It can hurt when things don't work out the way you hope. I know, but I'm doing it anyway. On the morning of Emma's birthday, Evelyn woke early and drove to pick up the cake. Marie had outdone herself. 2 tiers of chocolate perfection covered in delicate pink flowers that spelled out Emma's name in elegant script. It was beautiful without being ostentatious, special without being excessive. The apartment building on Meridian Street looked festive when Evelyn arrived. Balloons tied to the front railing, a handmade Happy Birthday Emma banner stretched across the 3rd-floor windows. Through the open door of 3B, she could hear music and laughter. Marcus met her at the door, looking slightly harried, but genuinely happy. You're early. The party doesn't start for another hour. I know. I wanted to help set up. Evelyn held up the cake box. And I wanted to make sure this arrived safely. Let me see. Marcus took the box carefully and opened it in the kitchen. His expression when he saw the cake was worth every penny. Emma's gonna lose her mind. That's the idea. They put the cake in the refrigerator and Evelyn helped Marcus finish decorating. Streamers in pink and purple, Emma's favorite colors, balloons in every corner, a table set up for games and crafts, supplies from the dollar store arranged with surprising creativity. It was simple and heartfelt and exactly what a 9-year-old's party should be. Emma emerged from her room in a new dress, light blue with flowers, something Rosa had helped her pick out. Her hair was pulled back with a matching ribbon, and she wore her heart necklace proudly. Princess Evelyn, you're here! Emma threw her arms around Evelyn's waist. Did you bring the cake? I did. It's in the refrigerator, and you can't look until it's time to blow out the candles. That's torture. How am I supposed to wait? Very patiently, Marcus called from across the room. Like the mature 9-year-old you're about to become. The guests arrived in a flurry of excitement. 6 girls from Emma's class, each carrying wrapped presents and buzzing with energy. They descended on the apartment like a cheerful tornado, and within minutes the small space was filled with laughter and chaos. Evelyn found herself helping Marcus manage games she'd never played. Musical chairs with a Spotify playlist, pin the tail on the donkey with a poster that looked hand-drawn, and something called freeze dance that seemed to involve a lot of shrieking. The girls accepted her presence without question, occasionally pulling her into their games with the easy inclusion of children who didn't yet understand social hierarchies. During a quiet moment while the girls worked on decorating picture frames, Marcus joined Evelyn in the kitchen. You're good with them, he observed, watching her help 2 girls untangle a ribbon. I'm winging it, Evelyn admitted. I've never actually been to a kid's birthday party before. Not as a guest, anyway. Never? My childhood parties were catered affairs with hired entertainment. Very formal, very adult-supervised. Nothing like this. She gestured at the happy chaos in the living room. This is real, Marcus said simply. This is what childhood should look like. When it was time for cake, they gathered around the kitchen table, Emma in the place of honor with her friends clustered around her. Marcus brought out the cake, and the collective gasp from the girls made Evelyn's eyes sting. It's so pretty, one of them breathed. It has your name, another pointed out unnecessarily. Emma just stared, her eyes wide and bright. It's the most beautiful cake I've ever seen. They sang happy birthday, slightly off key and enthusiastic. Emma closed her eyes to make a wish, her small face serious with the weight of whatever she was asking the universe for. Then she blew out all 9 candles in one breath, and the girls erupted in cheers. Cutting the cake, serving the pieces, watching these children celebrate their friend, it all felt sacred somehow. This was what Evelyn had been missing. Not the grand gestures or expensive gifts, but these small, perfect moments of genuine joy. After cake, it was time for presents. Emma opened each one with careful attention, thanking the giver sincerely even when it was something simple. When she got to Evelyn's gift, an art supply set with professional-grade materials and a how-to book on painting, her face lit up. "This is what real artists use," Emma hugged the box. "Thank you, Princess Evelyn." "I remembered you said you were learning about famous painters in school," Evelyn said. "I thought you might like to try painting yourself. Can you teach me? Do you know how to paint?" "I don't, actually, but maybe we can learn together." The party wound down as parents arrived to collect their daughters. Emma hugged each friend goodbye, clearly exhausted but radiantly happy. When the last guest left, the apartment fell into sudden quiet. "That was perfect," Emma announced, collapsing on the couch, surrounded by her new gifts. "Best birthday ever." "I'm glad, sweetheart." Marcus started cleaning up, and Evelyn automatically helped, collecting plates and cups. "You don't have to do that," Marcus said as she tied off a garbage bag. "I know, but I want to help." They worked in comfortable silence while Emma played with her new art supplies. When the apartment was mostly clean, Rosa appeared. She'd been visiting family, but had promised to stop by with her own gift. "Happy birthday, Emma!" Rosa produced a wrapped box that turned out to contain a beautiful scrapbook. "For all your memories, the surgery, your recovery, and all the good things coming next." Emma hugged Rosa tightly. "Thank you. I'm going to put pictures of everyone in it." "Good idea." Rosa glanced at Marcus and Evelyn. "Can I talk to you both for a minute? In the kitchen?" They followed her, leaving Emma absorbed in examining her scrapbook. Rosa's expression was serious. "I wanted to tell you both in person. I've been offered a full-time position with a family who needs live-in care. Better pay, benefits. I'd be starting in 2 weeks." Evelyn's heart sank. Rosa had become an integral part of Emma's recovery, her presence a constant source of stability. "That's wonderful for you, Marcus said, though his voice was carefully neutral. "Congratulations." "Thank you, but I wanted to make sure you'd be okay. Emma's doing so well now, she honestly doesn't need full-time care anymore. Part-time check-ins, maybe, until she's fully cleared by the cardiologist." Rosa looked between them. "But I wouldn't leave if you weren't ready." "We're ready," Marcus said, sounding more confident than he probably felt. "Emma's strong enough now, and I can adjust my schedule at the shop." After Rosa left, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. "Are you okay?" Evelyn asked quietly. "I knew this was coming. Emma's been getting better. Rosa can't stay forever, but having it actually happen..." Marcus looked up. "I've gotten used to having help, to not carrying everything alone. Going back to how it was before feels..." "You don't have to go back to how it was," Evelyn interrupted. "I'm still here." "You have your own life, Evelyn, your responsibilities. I can't expect..." "You're not expecting. I'm offering." Evelyn pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "Marcus, I know we've been dancing around this for weeks, trying to figure out what this is and what happens next. But here's the truth. I don't want to go back to my old life. I don't want to spend my days in meaningless meetings and my nights at empty parties. I want to be here, with you and Emma. However that works." Marcus stared at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that somewhere in the past 2 months, you and Emma became the most important people in my life. I'm saying that showing up for Emma's birthday party matters more than any charity gala ever could. I'm saying..." Evelyn took a breath. "I'm saying that I love your daughter, and I care about you, and I want to keep being part of your lives. Not as a benefactor or a charity volunteer, but as someone who genuinely belongs here." "Evelyn, let me finish." She needed to get this out before courage failed her. "I know it's complicated. I know there are huge differences in our backgrounds, our experiences, our resources. I know you have every reason to be suspicious of my motives, but I also know that when I'm here, In this tiny apartment with you and Emma, I feel more like myself than I ever have in my penthouse overlooking the harbor. And if you'll let me, I want to keep showing up for school plays and doctor appointments and ordinary Tuesdays, for all of it. Marcus was quiet for a long time, his expression unreadable. You know what you're asking for? To be part of a family that's held together with duct tape and determination? To deal with limited resources and constant uncertainty and all the messy reality that comes with being working class in America? I know it won't be easy. It'll be harder than anything you've experienced before. Marcus continued. There won't be fancy solutions or money to throw at problems. Sometimes we'll struggle, sometimes we'll fight. Sometimes you'll wonder why you gave up your comfortable life for this chaos. And sometimes it'll be perfect, Evelyn countered, like today. Like Emma's face when she saw that cake. Like the way she calls me her fairy godmother and actually believes it. Those moments are worth more than anything I've ever had. You say that now. I'll say it every day if I have to. Evelyn reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. I'm not asking you to make any promises. I'm not asking you to figure out what we are or where this is going. I'm just asking you to let me stay. Let me be Emma's fairy godmother, or your friend, or whatever makes sense. Just don't push me away because you think I'll eventually leave anyway. Marcus turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. The gesture was simple but significant, an acknowledgement of connection. I'm terrified, he admitted quietly. Of letting you in completely. Of Emma getting too attached and then losing someone else she loves. Of depending on you and having you realize this isn't the adventure you thought it would be. I'm terrified too, Evelyn confessed. Of not being good enough. Of not understanding what you and Emma need. Of failing at being part of a real family because I've never actually had one. Your mother died when I was 15. My father loves me, but he shows it with money and distance. I've had privilege and wealth and every material advantage, but I've never had this. Evelyn gestured around the small kitchen. Connection. Purpose. People who care about me for who I am, not what I can provide. Emma cares about you, Marcus said. She loves you. Not your money or your gifts, but you. The person who shows up and reads her stories and waits outside her school just to make sure she's okay. And you? Evelyn asked, her heart in her throat. How do you feel? Marcus looked at their joined hands, then at her face. I care about you more than I should, more than is probably smart given everything. But I can't seem to help it. When you're here, everything feels lighter, possible. Like maybe we can actually build something good out of all this mess. Before Evelyn could respond, Emma appeared in the doorway. Are you guys holding hands? They both jumped slightly, not realizing they'd been observed. Emma's expression was knowing beyond her years. We were just talking, Marcus said, not quite letting go of Evelyn's hand. About mushy stuff? Emma came into the kitchen grinning. Because you look like people do in movies before they kiss. Emma! Marcus's face colored. That's not... We weren't... It's okay if you like Princess Evelyn, Daddy. I like her too. Emma climbed into Evelyn's lap with the casual affection she'd developed over weeks of visits. She makes you smile more, and she makes me happy. So if you want to kiss her, that's okay with me. Evelyn couldn't help but laugh at Marcus's mortified expression. Thank you for the permission, Emma. You're welcome. Emma yawned, the long day catching up with her. Can Princess Evelyn stay for movie night? We always watch a movie on my birthday. Marcus looked at Evelyn, the question clear in his eyes. She nodded. Princess Evelyn can stay. They settled on the couch, Emma between them, watching an animated movie about friendship and magic. Halfway through, Emma fell asleep, her head on Evelyn's shoulder, one hand clutching her heart necklace. She's exhausted, Marcus said softly, brushing hair from his daughter's face. Too much excitement. Good excitement, though. The best kind. Marcus met Evelyn's eyes over Emma's sleeping form. Thank you. For today. For everything. For not giving up on us. Thank you for not pushing me away. They sat in comfortable silence, the movie playing unwatched, Emma sleeping peacefully between them. It wasn't a dramatic moment or a grand declaration. Just a quiet evening in a small apartment, three people who'd found each other through unlikely circumstances and decided to become a family. Later, after Marcus carried Emma to bed and returned to find Evelyn still on the couch, they talked until past midnight. About Emma's upcoming follow-up appointment, about Marcus's work, about Evelyn's decision to step down from half her board positions to free up more time, about practical things and impossible dreams and everything in between. "I should probably go," Evelyn said eventually, though she made no move to leave. "It's late." "Stay," Marcus said, then seemed surprised by his own boldness. "I mean, you could sleep on the couch. It's a long drive back to your place, and you've been here all day. It would be easier." "I'd like that." Evelyn interrupted his nervous explanation. "If you're sure." "I'm sure." Marcus brought her a pillow and blanket, and they said goodnight with an awkwardness that felt almost adolescent. After he disappeared into his room, Evelyn lay in the darkness of the small living room, listening to the sounds of the apartment building settling around her. Traffic outside, neighbors moving around upstairs, the hum of the refrigerator. It wasn't her penthouse with its silence and space. It was better. She fell asleep smiling. The next morning, Evelyn woke to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Emma's laughter. She found them in this kitchen, Marcus at the stove, Emma sitting on the counter in her pajamas, both of them covered in flour. "Princess Evelyn, you stayed!" Emma's face lit up. "Daddy's making birthday pancakes. They're a tradition." "Are they?" Evelyn joined them, accepting the coffee Marcus handed her. "Every birthday we make pancakes the next morning. Mom started it," Marcus said, flipping a pancake with practiced ease. "We keep her traditions alive." The mention of Sarah felt natural now, not painful. She was part of this family's story, honored and remembered, but not a barrier to moving forward. "Can I help?" Evelyn asked. "You can set the table." Emma pointed to the cabinet. "Plates are on the middle shelf." They ate breakfast together, talking about Emma's favorite gifts and planning when they'd try out the new art supplies. It was domestic and ordinary and absolutely perfect. When Evelyn finally left around noon, Emma hugged her tightly at the door. "You'll come back soon, right? You're not going to disappear?" "I'm not going anywhere," Evelyn promised. "I'll see you Tuesday after school." "And you'll stay for dinner?" "If your daddy says it's okay." Marcus put his hand on Emma's shoulder. "Princess Evelyn is always welcome for dinner." Driving home, Evelyn thought about everything that had changed since that night at the charity gala. She'd walked into the Copley Plaza ballroom bored and empty, looking for any distraction from her meaningless life. She'd left having set in motion a series of events that would completely transform her understanding of wealth, worth, and what actually mattered. Her penthouse felt different when she walked in, not like home, but like a place she stayed between visits to the people who'd become her real family. She stood at the window overlooking the harbor, her phone in her hand, and made a decision. She called her financial advisor first. "I want to set up a trust fund for Emma Hale's future, college, medical expenses, whatever she needs. Irrevocable, with strict terms that she can't access until she's 18, and even then, only for education or health-related costs." The amount? $500,000. To start. We can add more later if needed. And the contingencies? None. No strings, no control, no expectations. Just ensuring that one little girl has the resources she needs to build whatever life she wants. After that call, she contacted a real estate agent. "I want to look at properties in East Boston. 2 or 3 bedrooms, good school district, something move-in ready." "For yourself?" "For a family I care about. Anonymous purchase, arranged through a trust. They'll never know it came from me." It took 3 weeks to arrange everything. The trust fund, the house purchased and deeded to Marcus through a complicated legal structure that made it untraceable to Evelyn. The conversation with her father about stepping back from most of her society obligations. "You're really doing this?" Richard asked over dinner at his house. "Completely restructuring your life around these people?" "They're not these people, Dad. They're my family." Evelyn said it with certainty. "Emma calls me her fairy godmother. Marcus trusts me with his daughter's care. I found something real with them, something I've been looking for my entire life without knowing it. And when people ask what you do with your time, I'll tell them I'm learning to be present, to show up, to care about things that matter." Evelyn smiled. "Mom would understand." "She would," her father agreed. "She absolutely would." On a Tuesday in late April, Evelyn arrived at the apartment to find Marcus at the kitchen table, staring at a stack of legal documents with an expression somewhere between shock and disbelief. "What's wrong?" she asked immediately. "Someone bought us a house." Marcus looked up at her, his eyes wide. "A real house, 3 bedrooms, backyard, in the good school district. Just showed up in the mail today with legal papers saying it's ours. Free and clear. No mortgage, no strings." Evelyn's heart stopped. The purchase wasn't supposed to be revealed yet. "That's wonderful. Do you know who?" "It's anonymous, arranged through some trust or foundation. The lawyer's letter says it's from someone who wants to support Emma's recovery and our family's future." Marcus's hands shook slightly as he held the papers. "Evelyn, this is a $300,000 house. Who just gives that away?" "Someone who cares about you," Evelyn said carefully. "Someone who wants Emma to have a yard to play in and you to have space to breathe. Don't question it, just accept it." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "Did you do this?" "I can't discuss the details of anonymous charitable trusts." Evelyn kept her voice neutral. "But hypothetically, if someone with resources wanted to ensure a little girl had a safe, stable home while remaining anonymous, that would be a good thing, right?" "Evelyn, Marcus, please. Let this be a gift with no expectations. Let Emma have that backyard in that good school district. Let yourself have one less thing to worry about." Evelyn moved closer. "You've spent years sacrificing everything for your daughter. Let someone else sacrifice a tiny fraction of their wealth to help you both. You deserve it." "I can't accept this." "You already have. It's legally yours. The papers are signed. All you have to do is move in." Evelyn smiled. "Emma's going to love having her own room. A real room with space for all her art supplies and a window that looks out on something other than another building." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "You've given us so much already. The surgery, Rosa, all your time and care, and now this? How am I ever supposed to repay you?" "By being happy, by letting Emma thrive, by accepting that sometimes people help because they want to, not because they expect something back." Evelyn took his hands. "You changed my life, Marcus. You and Emma showed me what actually matters. This is just me trying to say thank you in the only way I know how." He pulled her into a hug then, holding on like she might disappear if he let go. Evelyn wrapped her arms around him, feeling his shoulders shake with silent tears. "Thank you," he whispered against her hair, "for everything, for seeing us, for caring, for not giving up on us. Always," Evelyn promised. "I'll always show up for you and Emma. That's what family does." When Emma came home from school and heard about the house, her reaction was everything Evelyn had hoped for. Pure, unbridled joy. She ran through the apartment gathering her favorite things, already planning what would go in her new room, talking a mile a minute about the backyard and the school and all the possibilities. That night, the 3 of them drove to see the house. It was a modest colonial in a neighborhood of similar homes, not fancy, but solid and well-maintained, with a small lawn and a tree perfect for climbing someday when Emma was stronger. "It's perfect," Emma breathed, pressing her face against the car window. "It looks like the houses in my books." They walked through together, Emma running from room to room despite Marcus's gentle warnings to be careful. The house was empty, but full of potential. Hardwood floors, large windows, a kitchen big enough for family dinners, a backyard with a swing set left by the previous owners. "Can I really have my own room?" Emma asked, standing in the smallest bedroom with its built-in bookshelf. "Just mine?" "Just yours," Marcus confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. "And Princess Evelyn can visit whenever she wants?" "Whenever she wants." Marcus looked at Evelyn. "She's always welcome." Standing in that empty house, watching Emma spin in circles with joy while Marcus tried not to cry, Evelyn felt something click into place. This was what money was for. Not expensive clothes or fancy cars or status symbols, but this, creating safety and stability and possibility for people who deserved it. The move happened 2 weeks later. Evelyn helped pack boxes, surprised by how few possessions they actually had after Marcus had sold so much to pay for Emma's care. But each item they did have carried meaning: Emma's stuffed animals, Sarah's recipe box, photos of happier times. On moving day, Evelyn arrived early with coffee and breakfast pastries. Friends from Marcus's work showed up with trucks. Rosa came to help organize the kitchen. Even Evelyn's father made an appearance, showing up with a housewarming gift and a rare smile. "This is a good thing you've done," Richard told his daughter quietly while Marcus directed furniture placement. "Your mother would be very proud." By evening, the house was livable if not fully organized. Emma's room was set up first, her bed with its unicorn blanket, her art supplies carefully arranged on the bookshelf, the scrapbook Rosa had given her prominently displayed. "This is the best room ever," Emma announced, lying on her bed and staring at the ceiling. "I have my own ceiling to look at." They ordered pizza for dinner, sitting on the floor of the living room because the furniture wasn't fully arranged yet. It was chaotic and exhausting and absolutely perfect. Later, after Emma had fallen asleep in her new room and the helpers had left, Marcus found Evelyn standing in the backyard, looking at the stars barely visible through Boston's light pollution. "You okay?" he asked, joining her on the small patio. "More than okay. Happy." Evelyn leaned against him slightly. "This feels right." "It does." Marcus put his arm around her shoulders, a gesture that had become natural over the past weeks. "I keep waiting to wake up and find out this was all a dream. The surgery, the house, you. It's too good to be real." "It's real. All of it." Evelyn turned to face him. "And it's just the beginning. Emma's going to grow up healthy in this house. She's going to have friends over and birthday parties and normal childhood experiences. You're going to sleep through the night without worrying about medical bills or rent. And I'm going to be here for all of it, if you'll let me." "I'll let you." Marcus smiled, really smiled, the expression transforming his face. "I think I might even love you for it." The words hung in the air between them, shocking in their honesty. "You think?" Evelyn's heart was racing. "I know," Marcus corrected himself. "I know I love you. I've been trying not to, trying to keep appropriate boundaries and not complicate things. But somewhere between you showing up at the hospital and you sleeping on my couch and you giving my daughter a house to grow up in, I fell completely in love with you." "Good." Evelyn reached up to touch his face. "Because I've been in love with you for weeks and was terrified to say anything." He kissed her then, gentle and careful, like she was precious. It was nothing like the performative kisses Evelyn had experienced at society events. This was real, full of promise and possibility, and the kind of love that grew from genuine connection rather than convenience. When they pulled apart, Emma's voice came from the doorway behind them. "I knew it! I knew you liked each other!" They both turned to find her standing there in her pajamas, grinning triumphantly. "You're supposed to be asleep," Marcus said, but there was no heat in it. "I was, but then I heard talking and wanted to see the backyard at night." Emma came outside, and Marcus lifted her up easily, despite the doctor's warnings about being careful. "Are you going to get married? Can I be in the wedding?" "Emma!" Marcus's face colored. We haven't." "Someday, maybe," Evelyn interrupted, smiling at Emma's enthusiasm. "If your daddy asks me nicely." "You should ask her, Daddy. She's perfect. She's like a princess fairy godmother, and you love her and she loves us, so obviously you should get married." The logic was irrefutable in the way only a 9-year-old's logic could be. "We'll see," Marcus said diplomatically. "But right now you need to be in bed. Doctor's orders." He carried Emma back inside, and Evelyn followed, watching father and daughter navigate their new home. There would be time for conversations about the future, about what this relationship meant and where it might lead. But for now, it was enough to be here, to be part of this small, fierce family that had survived so much. As Evelyn tucked Emma in for the second time that night, the little girl grabbed her hand. "Thank you for being my fairy godmother," Emma said seriously, "for fixing my heart and making my daddy happy and giving us this house. You're the best thing that ever happened to us." "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." Evelyn kissed her forehead. "Sleep well, sweetheart." Walking out of Emma's new room, Evelyn found Marcus waiting in the hallway. He pulled her close without a word, and they stood there in the quiet house, holding each other. 6 months ago, Evelyn had been a bored heiress looking for any distraction from her empty life. She'd handed a stranger her credit card as a cruel joke, never imagining it would lead here, to love, to purpose, to finally understanding what wealth was actually for. Not for buying things or impressing people or maintaining status, but for creating possibility, for building futures, for showing up when it mattered and staying even when it was hard. Marcus Hale had walked into that charity gala with $20 and the desperate hope that someone might care. Evelyn Carter had given him a platinum card to spend like the rich, expecting to be entertained by his excess. Instead, he'd shown her what true wealth looked like: a father's love, a child's trust, the dignity of using resources to protect what mattered most. He'd spent every dollar with careful intention, choosing survival over pride, demonstrating that character and money were two entirely different measures of worth. In trying to expose his poverty, she'd exposed her own emptiness. In his restraint, she'd found her purpose. And in choosing to stay, to keep showing up, to love this small family with everything she had, Evelyn had finally become the person her mother had hoped she'd be. Rich not in dollars, but in connection. Wealthy not in possessions, but in presence. Privileged not by birth, but by the honor of being called Emma's fairy godmother and Marcus's partner, and part of a family that had taught her the only lesson that truly mattered, that showing up, again and again with love and without conditions, was the greatest gift anyone could give. And as she stood in the hallway of a modest house in East Boston, wrapped in Marcus's arms with Emma sleeping